Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Board of Supervisors meeting for Tuesday, May 1st, 2018. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Thank you, Madam President. President Breed.
Here.
Breed present. Supervisor Cohen. Here. Cohen present. Supervisor Fewer. Present. Fewer present. Supervisor Kim. Here. Kim present. Supervisor Peskin. Peskin present. Supervisor Ronan. Present. Ronan present. Supervisor Safai. Safai present. Supervisor Sheehy. Sheehy present. Supervisor Stephanie. Stephanie present. Supervisor Tang.
Present.
Tang present. Supervisor Yee. Yee present. Madam President, all members are present.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. Madam Clerk, are there any communications?
Yes, Madam President. On April 25th, the Office of the Clerk of the Board received a communication from the Office of the Mayor vetoing file number 180116, the appropriation for $1.1 million to the Department of Public Works for a time-limited and geographically inequitable street cleaning pilot, pursuant to his memo. Pursuant to Charter Section 9.104, the Board may, within 10 days of receipt of the Mayor's veto message, reinstate in whole or in part any expenditure reduced or rejected by the Mayor's veto by 2/3. That deadline would be by May 5th.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Please read the consent agenda.
Items 1 through 13 comprise the consent agenda. Any item may be removed and considered separately.
Roll call vote.
On items 1 through 13, Supervisor Peskin.
Aye.
Peskin, aye. Supervisor Ronan. Ronan, aye. Supervisor Safai. Safai, aye. Supervisor Sheehy. Sheehy, aye. Supervisor Stephanie. Stephanie, aye. Supervisor Tang.
Aye.
Tang, aye. Supervisor Yee. Yee, aye. Supervisor Breed.
Aye.
Breed, aye. Supervisor Cohen. Cohen, aye. Supervisor Fewer. Fewer, aye. Supervisor Kim. Kim, aye. There are 11 ayes.
Those items are adopted unanimously. Madam Clerk, let's go to the next item.
Item 14 is an ordinance to amend the health code to designate the city attorney rather than the district attorney to institute judicial proceedings under the Lanterman-Petrus Short Act, to appoint conservators for persons with mental health disorders, and to compel participation in assisted outpatient treatment, and expressing the Board of Supervisors' intention to add positions to the Office of the City Attorney to institute such proceedings and to appropriate funds for that purpose.
Thank you. Colleagues, the legislation before you today amends the health code to designate the city attorney rather than the district attorney to handle judicial proceedings related to mental health conservatorships in the city and county of San Francisco. It's no secret that our city is grappling with a severe mental health challenge, and sadly, we have many mentally ill individuals who cannot care for their own basic needs and need to be appointed a conservator to help them get the treatment and the shelter they need to get better. Being left on the streets in this kind of mental state without intervention is inhumane and is not helping anyone. Compounded with the chronic homelessness and substance abuse, these mental health challenges become more acute and must be addressed with sensitivity, compassion, and dignity. Just the same way individuals dealing with mental health challenges should not be locked up in jail. Mental health conservatorships should not be handled like criminal cases. Being mentally ill is not a crime. These cases should be handled as civil cases, the same way we treat child and family law and assisted outpatient treatment cases under Lohr's law. That's precisely why I brought forward this legislation by transferring the responsibility of conservatorship cases from the district attorney to the city attorney. We are decriminalizing mental health issues and ensuring that we are helping individuals get the services they need to get healthy and stabilized for the long term. I want to thank the members of the Budget Subcommittee for sending this out with a positive recommendation. I want to thank City Attorney Dennis Herrera and our District Attorney George Gascon for working with us, as well as the Director of Department of Public Health, Barbara Garcia. and also Supervisors Sheehy and Kim for co-sponsoring this legislation. And colleagues, I respectfully ask for your support. Supervisor Safai.
Can you add me as a co-sponsor, please?
Definitely.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, seeing no other names on the roster, colleagues, can we pass this item, same house, same call? Without objection, the ordinance will be adopted unanimously on the first reading. Next item, please.
Item 15 is a resolution to retroactively authorize the Sheriff's Department to apply for, accept, and expend a $300,000 grant for justice and mental health collaboration program funds to be administered by the Bureau of Justice Assistance for the period of October 1st, 2017 through September 30th, 2019.
Same house, same call. Without objection, the resolution is adopted unanimously. Next item.
Item 16 is a resolution to retroactively authorize agreement amendments between various companies for specialized and technical services for natural resources and watershed management and monitoring in the following amounts of not to exceed $6.5 million, $6.4 million, and approximately $500,000 and approximately $7.4 million.
Same house, same call. Without objection, the resolution is adopted unanimously. Next item.
Item 17 is a resolution to establish the leather and lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, the LGBTQ cultural district with the intent of commemorating historical sites, preserving existing spaces, and planning for thriving and vibrant communities that are leather and LGBTQ affirming.
Supervisor Kim.
Thank you, President Breed. I just want to say a few words about the initiation of our leather and LGBTQ district in the Western Soma neighborhood. This social cultural district has been in the works for about 10 years since the Western Soma plan was first introduced in 2006, and took quite a bit of time for us and the community and neighborhood to put together. The time came out of the desire to make sure that this is more than just a historic district with name plaques and art and sculpture that would commemorate the history. We want to give this cultural social district the tools to ensure that this can continue to be a living, breathing district where we support our small businesses that represent the leather community, as well as social community serving organization and housing that ensure that this community continues to live, thrive, and work in the Western Soma neighborhood. Colleagues, I ask for your support on the establishment of this new cultural district in the South of Market area, which will join Soma Filipinas as another social cultural district that will celebrate the long-time history and contributions of the leather community and Filipino-American community to the San Francisco South of Market neighborhood.
Thank you, Supervisor Kim. Seeing no other, Supervisor Ronan.
Yes, I just wanted to congratulate Supervisor Kim and the Leather District on this great work and ask to be added as a co-sponsor.
Thank you, Supervisor Ronan. Seeing no other names on the roster, colleagues, can we take this item, same house, same call? Without objection, the resolution is adopted unanimously. Next item, please.
Item 18 is an ordinance to amend the police code to prohibit firearms at certain public gatherings.
Supervisor Stephanie.
Thank you, President Breed. Colleagues, thank you for considering this item today. The legislation before you makes it clear that when you are in San Francisco, you are free to exercise your First Amendment rights without fear or intimidation from those carrying concealed firearms. Last August, a proposed demonstration in District 2 on Crissy Field by a far right-wing group wreaked havoc throughout this entire city. Coming off the heels of violence we all saw in Charlottesville, Virginia, there were serious concerns about concealed handguns at this rally due to a 2010 federal firearms law that allows guns in our national parks. In a country with a gun homicide rate 25 times higher than that of other developed nations, and where 90 Americans are shot dead and hundreds more are injured every day, we are lucky to live in a city that takes gun violence seriously. When I was an aide to Supervisor Farrell, I worked on, and this board passed, the strongest gun safety storage laws in the country, and also required the videotaping of all gun and ammunition sales to give law enforcement the additional tools they need to prevent crime and keep our neighborhoods safe. San Francisco leads the way, and it's time we do it again, especially given the threat looming in Congress with the NRA's #1 priority bill pending in the Senate, a bill called Concealed Carry Reciprocity, which would eviscerate California's concealed carry requirements and allow anyone with a concealed carry permit from any state to carry a concealed weapon in San Francisco. Some states don't even require background checks for a concealed carry permit. This law would seriously diminish the security of San Franciscans, especially at events covered by this ordinance. The proposed rally by Patriot Prayer sent our city into chaos, costing millions. It struck the fear of violence in many, and the entire Presidio virtually shut down. It is time for San Francisco to continue to lead the way and protect our residents and visitors from the threat of gun violence at events in our public right-of-way, such as our Women's March, the student-led March for Our Lives, the Pride Parade, and other related events. Our First Amendment rights, the freedom of speech and the right to peacefully assemble and protest, should not be infringed, chilled, or suppressed by the presence of guns in our city. I want to thank Supervisors Tang, Breed, Ronan, and Cohen for their co-sponsorship, and also the Giffords Law Center for their support. And thank you to all the members of Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense in America who came to the committee hearing to express their support. Colleagues, I hope you'll also join in supporting this legislation. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Stephanie. Supervisor Cohen.
Thank you. Good afternoon, colleagues and ladies and gentlemen. Supervisor Stephanie, I just want to say thank you for sponsoring this legislation. I'm delighted to be a co-sponsor on this. I think that it's incredibly important. And, I think it's also ironically timely that our Vice President Mike Pence had an event, I think just today, where there was an NRA gathering and there was a no gun a safe space, a no-gun zone. And I'd like to see this not only in public gatherings, but of course in echoing the cries from the Parkland students that schools also be safe zones. So perhaps, I don't know if there's legislation in the works, but maybe we should start working on ensuring that schools are also included in the safe space and the prohibition of guns. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Cohen. Seeing no other names on the roster, colleagues, can we take this item, same House, same call? Without objection, the ordinance passes unanimously on the first reading. Next item.
Item 19 is an ordinance to amend the administrative code to establish a program by which the city would provide up to 80 hours of paid release time from work to employees directly and significantly harmed by a regional disaster where the mayor has declared a regional disaster affecting the city employees, subject to eligibility criteria established by the Human Resources Director and program terms and conditions.
Same House, same call. Without objection, the ordinance passes unanimously on the first reading. Next item, please.
Item 20 is an ordinance to amend the administrative code to change the eligibility age for one of the 7 former inmate members appointed to the Reentry Council by the mayor from ages 18 to 24 to ages 18 to 35, and to require that inmate member to have been an inmate before the age of 24.
Colleagues, this is a simple change to the composition of one of the seats appointed by the mayor on the Reentry Council. Currently, the mayor appoints 3 of the 7 seats, which are reserved for former inmates on the Reentry Council. One of those seats requires the individual to be between the ages of 18 to 24 to ensure a transitional age youth perspective is represented. The Adult Probation Department has recommended 2 changes which are reflective of the ordinance. The first is to expand the age range of this seat to 35, and the second is to add a requirement that the individual holding this seat would have had to be incarcerated before the age of 24. The department has requested this change due to the difficulty in filling the seat with the current age parameters. They believe this change will help ensure the seat can be filled and the perspective of a formerly incarcerated youth actually represented. And so with that, colleagues, I ask for your support. Supervisor Cohen.
Thank you. Supervisor Breed, I'd be happy to give you my support. I'd like to lend my name also in co-sponsorship.
Thank you, Supervisor Cohen.
Thank
Seeing
you.
no names other names on the roster, colleagues, can we take this item, same House, same call? Without objection, the ordinance passes unanimously on the first reading. Next item, please.
Item 21 is an ordinance to amend the administrative code to modify the composition of the Treasury Oversight Committee.
Same House, same call. Without objection, the ordinance passes unanimously on the first reading. Next item.
Item 22 is an ordinance to amend the Municipal Elections Code to require a notice in the voter information pamphlet for measures that would approve a development project or a substantial land use or zoning change on land held subject to the public trust by the city, acting by and through the Port Commission.
Same House, same call. Without objection, the ordinance passes unanimously on the first reading. Next item.
Item 23 is a motion to approve the mayor's reappointment of Ben Rosenfield as the controller for the city and county of San Francisco for a 10-year term.
Supervisor Peskin.
Thank you, Madam President. I think I have the distinction of being the only member of the board who was here the last time the first and last time we appointed Mr. Rosenfield to the position of controller back in 2008. I think Tom Mamiano was chair of the Rules Committee back then, so he had the pleasure of grilling Ben in committee. But I wanted to rise to sing his praises over the last 10 years. I think in large part the financial health of the city and county of San Francisco is a direct result of the work that Ben does, both as the controller, controlling our spending, as well as the policy advice that he gives us. And when Ben says that we are taking big risks, I listen to him, and I expect we all listen to him very, very carefully. He's someone who likes to solve not only financial puzzles, but policy puzzles. And I know that we all think on the last night of budget deliberations, he's the guy who comes up with the magic money. But I've got news for everybody. There's really no such thing as magic money. And most of all, I really respect Ben's decency and integrity, and am very pleased that you're willing to serve another 10-year term.
Thank you. Supervisor Kim.
Thank you. I also just want to say a couple of words in support of Ben Rosenfield, also known as the Clark Kent of San Francisco and City Hall, according to the New York Times in 2011. Not my words, the New York Times, and I believe everything the New York Times writes. I just over my 2 terms have just grown to tremendously respect Ben and his work and his office and team. It is a very, I don't say this about a lot of people and departments, but it really is a very noble department. It has a very tough job of maneuvering through a lot of political minutia and agendas, and really does its best to provide hard numbers and data. And I have just always been impressed in Ben's willingness to serve everyone and provide them with the information that they need to be successful, and really at best as he can stay out of the fray and just continue to help us to lead an agenda to best serve our city and county. And I think that is a tremendously difficult task to do because even numbers and facts are not just numbers and facts. So to be able to do that in attempting to do that with as much objectivity as possible, I think is a very important endeavor and trait, and I just appreciate that that is always the line that the controller and his office walks under. So I just am thankful that you want to continue to do this work for another decade with all of us, and I do think the city is in very good hands under your leadership. And so thank you for your service. Thank you for you do. Thanks also for holding our hands when we're crying on budget night and sharing worst stories whenever we think that this is the worst budget night ever, and keeping us in perspective every single year. So thank you, Ben, and I will very excited to support your renomination today.
Thank you. I just want to assure everyone that budget night will not be painful this year. As your budget chair, we're working very close to make sure that it's transparent and fair for everyone, and open in space for everyone to consume. And quite honestly, to put a finer point on what Supervisor Peskin and Supervisor Kim shared, I want to echo, Ben, you're the consummate professional, and it's actually a delight to work with you. I value your wisdom and your perspective, and for those of you that have not had the privilege to actually work with Ben Rosenfield, it is he's a gentleman. Even when you disagree, he's able to find and take the high road. And to put a finer point on things, I also want to acknowledge that he's very ethical. And he leads with a very strong moral compass for honesty, and he has an incredible high level of integrity for his work. And I think that is remarkable. And that's not to say that other city departments do not behave or perform in that way, but this is just an opportunity to highlight a gentleman who has been serving San Francisco for how long has it been? For 20 years already. And it's a tough job, and you do it with style, with a little bit of elegance and grace. And I just want to express my appreciation for your leadership and for the team that you lead. You lead a very strong team that is very dedicated, very smart, very fair, all the things and attributes that we look for in our city controller. I look forward to casting my vote for you. Congratulations. Next speaker, Supervisor Safai.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to say what a pleasure and honor it is. Go back with Mr. Rosenfeld almost 20 years. Started when he was the Budget and Finance Director under Mayor Willie Brown, and we've worked together on many, many issues. It was a pleasure also to engage with you and the Technical Advisory Committee that you put together specifically for updating our inclusionary housing, and the objectivity, the professionalism, and the work that your staff allowed that process to move forward in a very positive manner, and we ended up reaching 11-0 vote. So it's been an honor and a privilege to work with you, and what an honor it is, and I think it's a testimony to the good work that you've done to have 4 mayors that you've worked under all support you and continue to ask you to serve San Francisco. So as many have said before, you are the consummate public service, so it's my honor today to support you.
Thank you, Supervisor. Supervisor Ronan.
Thank you. These reappointment opportunities every 10 years are nice because we get to say all these nice things about you that usually you only hear when you retire. So I just want to echo all of my colleagues. Having been a legislative aide and now a supervisor, getting to work with you is always an absolute pleasure. I learn so much. You're always willing to think creatively to help all of us achieve our policy goals and aims while always being honest and forthright. And I just want to really echo everyone and appreciate you very much. And I'm very excited to be supporting your reappointment today.
Thank you. Supervisor Peskin, did you have more to say? No? Okay. Supervisor Stephanie?
Thank you, Supervisor Cohen. Mr. Rosenfield, I just wanted to reiterate what I said in Rules Committee, that I have enjoyed working with you in the 11 years I've been in this building, and you didn't treat me any less important when I was an aide, or any more important when I became supervisor, and I can't thank you enough for that. And like you said, it's less about what we say on a given issue, but how we hear people and how we treat them. And I think kindness is so important in public service. In this public realm, kindness has to be at, I think, the forefront of all our minds. We're all going to disagree with each other, but kindness is something that I think we should all bring to the table, and you exude that, and I thank you for that.
Thank you very much. Supervisor Yee?
Yes, thank you. I echo my colleagues' comments, and I just want to say simply, for 5.5 years, it's been a pleasure working with you, Mr. Rosenfield, and I will be supporting you today, and tomorrow will be another day.
Thank you. I didn't want you to think that I didn't like you, Ben, so I figured I would just at least get on the roster, but you know how much I will love working with you. You're always so professional, no matter, again, which side of the aisle we might be on, and a steady hand during the budget process, yes, when some of us may be falling apart. So thank you very much, Ben.
Thank you. Supervisor Fewer.
Yes, also, I just want to say ditto on everything.
Thank you, Supervisor Fewer. Thank you, Ben, for your commitment to the City and County of San Francisco, and for your new systems at the Controller's website, which makes it easy to find good information, good data, to understand exactly how we're spending money and how we can be more efficient in our use of the city's money. They're the best tools for our office to use, and we really appreciate it, and they're user-friendly for the public. You've done an outstanding job, and I'm excited to support you in moving your nomination forward. Seeing no other names on the roster, colleagues, can we take this item, same house, same call? Without objection, the motion is approved unanimously. Congratulations. Next item, please.
Item 24 is a motion to approve the mayor's nomination for the reappointment of Cheryl Brinkman to the Municipal Transportation Agency Board of Directors for a term ending March 1st, 2022.
Supervisor Peskin.
Thank you, Madam President, colleagues. The last item, I think, was an object lesson in the right way to have a confirmation. Mr. Rosenfield reached out, I believe, to every supervisor a long time ago and sought our comment and support. And of course, as with this case, this is an appointment of the mayor that is subject to confirmation by the Board of Supervisors. And we were talking about the budget process. I think one of the most important things about the budget process is the annual moment where we get to check in with a department, to, in front of the public, ask them questions about what they're doing and what their goals are, and how they've succeeded in the previous year and what they intend to do in the coming year. And the reason I'm saying all of this is because the role of the legislative branch in the confirmation function is very important, and I take it very seriously. And I don't think it should be treated lightly, particularly in and around a body like the MTA Commission that we have by charter law granted powers that are in many ways the powers that elected officials, elected legislative leaders enjoy in actually being able to legislate. The MTA does its own legislation that is not subject to approval by elected officials. And so the MTA Commission is all the more important. And what I'm troubled by, and this is in no way a personal comment about Ms. Brinkman, is the fact that this Board of Supervisors confirmation vote, and I say this respectfully, is being taken for granted. The fact that there has been really no affirmative outreach, at least to this supervisor, and I want to say that I reached out to the mayor's office yesterday to say that I thought it was rather extraordinary, not an email, not a telephone call. I mean, there's an opportunity for a check-in, and Mr. Powers was, and I don't want to put words in his mouth, but was very candid in saying that the administration, as a matter of practice, encourages all nominated commissioners to come to the Board of Supervisors and make themselves available, and that was not the case here. I anecdotally, although I don't really know Ms. Brinkman, have heard good things about her work on the MTA Commission, but I have not had a chance to discuss them with her. And this is not about me. It's really about this body and the importance of the confirmation role. Having said that, I am going to vote for Ms. Brinkman in this instance and for the other commissioners on the roster, but I want to send a message that this is the last time I'm going to do that, and from here on out, and I'm saying this to the appointing authority, and I'm saying this to commissioners, you really need to affirmatively reach out to your confirmation authority and not ever take this body for granted. It is important. And with that, I will cast a vote in the affirmative.
Thank you, Supervisor Peskin. Supervisor Kim.
Thank you. It is true, Director Brinkman did not reach out to me before this appointment, but I was going to say some kind words about the director. She is someone who has really been an advocate for Vision Zero and pedestrian safety and bike safety, and I just want to appreciate the director's work on SFMTA for ensuring that this voice is well represented and for pushing through protected bike lanes and many of the important initiatives that we have wanted to see come into fruition to help us get to zero fatalities here in San Francisco. But I do just want to affirm, Supervisor Peskin, I do think it's important for commissioners to reach out to all 11 members of this board. And I think in particular, given the role that SFMTA board plays and that they have real authority that actually the board does not have discretion to oversee, it's important to ensure that that relationship exists and, as was mentioned, not take the vote for granted. But I do want to thank Cheryl as well. I do think that she's been a very good director, and I'm happy to support her today.
Thank you, Supervisor Kim. Supervisor Cohen.
Thank you very much, Supervisor Peskin. I appreciate your remarks. I actually was on the roster to speak to say that I hadn't been outreached to it at all, and it's nothing worse than feeling like you're being taken for granted. And quite frankly, I've been mulling over not voting for her because of just the lack of due diligence that's been taken in this particular matter. I think what's most shocking is it's almost excusable when it's someone who doesn't know the process or they're brand new and they're just learning and going through this is the first time going through the appointment process. You can understand that. But this is a seasoned member of the MTA who has been around the halls of City Hall for long enough to know what the appropriate outreach strategy should be. First, you reach to the Rules Committee, and then you reach to the entire board members, anyone that has the ability to cast a vote for you. So I would also like to send a message to folks that are out there that don't take our votes for granted, and that we would like to hear from everyone that is seeking an appointment or a vote to any kind of a board or commission. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Cohen. Supervisor Fewer.
Yes, thank you, President Breed. I just want to say that I addressed the MTA Commission about 4 budget items about taxi drivers, crossing guards, language access, and chariot shuttles, and I only received a response from one commissioner, and that was Commissioner Torres. So upon these appointments that are here agendized today, I have to say a little disappointed not hearing any response at all from these 2 commissioners up for reappointment or any other commissioner except Commissioner Torres, which is really disappointing considering that a person on the Board of Supervisors that actually will vote on a reappointment is not either for issues when they take time to go before the commission to express their interest in these 4 issues, not to even have any response at all. I am going to be looking at these 4 topics in the MTA budget. These are people who oversee $1.1 billion of money. This is a huge budget, and the idea that a supervisor who will vote on their appointment actually came to the commission to address these 4 issues, and not one has ever responded, even via email or a phone call, or to follow up on these 4 concerns that I had in their $1.1 billion budget. I feel is sort of taking our vote for granted. And if I sound a little irritated or agitated in my voice, it is because I am. I have to trust that they're probably very busy, but I am also busy serving my 80,000 residents in the Richmond district, and these are 4 concerns that I felt were so important that it took time out of my day to go up and address their commission respectfully, and I think it is very disrespectful not to have responded in any manner at all around these 4 issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Fewer. Colleagues, we also have the option to continue the item as well. Supervisor Kim.
I was going to make a motion to continue this item for 2 weeks. I think that just given the fact that no one from this board has heard from the director, even though I support her, I do think that she should do her due diligence. So I'm going to make a motion to continue. I was going to suggest 2 weeks. I feel like that's a better amount of time to the board.
We should just vote.
Supervisor Sheehy. Oh, I'm sorry. Supervisor Kim has made a motion to continue this item for 2 weeks to the meeting of May 15th, 2018. Is there a second? Okay. Seconded by Supervisor Sheehy. Seeing no names on the roster, colleagues, can we take the continuance of 2 weeks without objection? Without objection, this item will be continued to the meeting of May 15th, 2018. Next item, please.
Item 25 is a motion to approve the mayor's nomination for the reappointment of Gwyneth Borden to the Municipal Transportation Agency Board of Directors for a term ending March 1st, 2022.
Supervisor Cohen.
Thank you very much. I just want to acknowledge that Commissioner Borden did reach out to my office, and I'm prepared to support her today. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Cohen. Supervisor Kim.
I was going to make a motion to continue this item for 2 weeks.
Okay, Supervisor Kim has made a motion to continue this item for 2 weeks, seconded by Supervisor Sheehy. I will not be supporting the continuance. I think I have a great respect and relationship with Supervisor Borden, who has been very proactive with my office in addressing issues that are of serious concern to me and my constituents in D5 on a regular basis, more so than any commissioner that sits on that commission. I think she's done an outstanding job. I will not support the continuance. I'm prepared to support her today in moving this particular item forward. Supervisor Safai.
I'm sorry, I didn't get it. As chair of the Rules Committee, I didn't get a chance to jump in, and I respect everything that Supervisor Kim, Peskin, and everyone else said. I do want to say that Commissioner Brinkman did reach out to me and did reach out to members of our committee and did have the opportunity to come in and speak. And what she told me at the end of the
Supervisor Safai, I apologize if you talk about Commissioner Brinkman. I will need to ask to rescind the vote for the purposes of...
No, that's fine. I just wanted to say that. That's real quick. And Commissioner Borden did the same thing. So we had the opportunity to meet, and I know that she met with other members of the committee. And so I think what happened was that they might not have known that it was happening. It was being sent straight to the board. But again, that's not an excuse. As was pointed out, that these are reappointments, and so there should be an opportunity to sit down with everyone. So I'm fine with the continuance for Commissioner Brinkman based on that. And Commissioner Borden did spend time with our office, so I'm okay with voting on her today.
Supervisor Cohen.
Thank you. I just wanted to maybe have a little discussion on why we would continue Commissioner Borden's, why you made that motion. I won't be supporting it, but can you speak to why?
Supervisor Kim.
For the same reason why I'm continuing Director Brinkman. I was ready to vote for Director Brinkman too. She's been, I have found her to be responsive to my office, but it seems that the directors have not spent time reaching out to the board members. It's not individual to Borden or Brinkman. It's just that we should give both directors an opportunity to meet with all the supervisors that wanted to talk to them. That's all. I was just being consistent.
And thank you, Supervisor Kim, for that. And I would say that because Commissioner Brinkman did not reach out to my office as well, and just hearing some of the concerns expressed by the rest of you in terms of outreach from that particular commissioner. Oh, and I guess I have to reverse the item to talk about it. But let me talk about following my own rules. The board's rules. Commissioner Borden and I have had extensive discussions, not just about this reappointment, but mostly consistently about the challenges of things that we continuously face in MTA, which is why I'm very comfortable moving this appointment forward. I think they are two separate issues as far as I'm concerned, which is the reason why I would not be supporting the continuance. Supervisor Peskin.
I was just going to ask a temporal question, which is Supervisor Borden in her holdover period? I mean, in other words, would she be able to continue to serve? I'm sorry. I meant
so what I'm going to do, Supervisor Peskin, you bring up a good issue because we may need to also figure that out for the previous commissioner and the continuance as well. So maybe
I was just informed that they expired on March 1st, which with the 60-day holdover provision in the charter would mean that they expire today.
I'm happy to make a motion to rescind on item 24 and to continue this to a later time in this board meeting.
Okay, so Supervisor Kim has made a motion to rescind the vote on the continuance. Is there a second?
Item 24.
Seconded by Supervisor Sheehy. Colleagues, can we take that without objection? Without objection, the vote for continuance of 2 weeks has been rescinded. And so we will come back to both items number 24 and 25 later on in our agenda because we do have a 2:30 special commendation, and that will give us enough time to sort out some of these details to make sure that the MTA department and its commission can still continue to function. So with that, Supervisor Stephanie, you have the floor.
Thank you, President Breed. Colleagues, today I'm honored to commend the students who helped to organize San Francisco's March for Our Lives rally and march down Market Street to the Ferry Building. I'd like to call up Jason Chen, Lola Cleveland, Sarah Mitchell, and Jaden Jarmel Schneider from Lowell High School. Also want to acknowledge that Cleo Blackheader couldn't be here with us today. On Valentine's Day this year, I was sitting in Rules Committee and got a message alert about another school shooting. This time in Parkland, Florida, at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School, where 17 people were shot and killed, 14 of those being teenagers, 3 administrators, and 17 more people were injured. As a mother of a 13-year-old son and an 8-year-old daughter, and someone who has been fighting for common sense gun laws since Columbine, which was 19 years ago, April 20th, news like this absolutely devastates me. I cannot begin to tell you the hope that I've felt since watching the reaction of the students in Parkland and our students here at home who have said enough. Immediately after Parkland, I heard from Jason Chen asking for a meeting. Supervisor Tang and I met with them as they were making plans to march and turn out thousands of people on March 24th, one of the many rallies around the country that day. To say we were impressed is an understatement. They are determined to fight for their lives, their dreams, and for our communities, and they will not stop until all American students feel safe in their classrooms. Our classrooms and college campuses are places for learning, not places to worry about gunfire and lockdown drills. As one of the students from Parkland said, what happened in Parkland could happen in any school, and that's exactly why students have to lead this conversation. It is clear that no one is safe from gun violence. If adults cannot get this done, we will. So in the spirit of letting them lead, I'm going to stop talking and turn the floor over to them. But first, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart, for your activism, your tenacity, your perseverance, and your hope that you bring to this conversation. Our future is going to change for the better because of your commitment to ending this gun violence epidemic plaguing our communities and our country, and I cannot thank you enough. So the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Supervisor Stephanie. On behalf of all the students involved in this effort, thank you so much for your commendation. Over the past few months, we've all been working tirelessly to turn our aspirations of a youth-led anti-gun movement to a reality. We learned through trial and error the challenges of organizing an event of this caliber. We spoke to officials at every level of local government, including yourselves, and slowly mobilized a ragtag group of high schoolers into an impassionate branch of an even more inspiring national movement. We had the privilege of working with students from every part of the Bay Area, from every walk of life, all driven by the same understanding that this new generation of mass school shootings change needs to happen, and it needs to happen now, or our lives as children would be in danger and at risk. Never again should we be scared by a fire drill or a backfiring car. Never again should we be afraid of staring down the barrel of a semi-automatic weapon. Enough is enough. And on March 24th, with your endorsement, we marched down Market Street with hundreds of our peers. It was truly a movement, and we were at the vanguard. And to say it was inspiring was just an understatement. This is only the beginning. And we have continued to further these efforts, from walking out of class on April 20th, which was the anniversary of the Columbine High School shooting, to creating Bay Area Student Activists, or BASTA, which means enough in Spanish, and even sending 300 students from over 30 schools to Sacramento to discuss with our California representatives about gun violence and what we can do to solve it. We live in a country where 7 children on average are killed each day by guns, and to be honest, that's 7 lives too many. We are extremely grateful, though, to live in a city where we have paved the way for common sense gun reform. And on behalf of all the student leaders, we are extremely thankful for this honor and are optimistic for the future of gun control and this youth movement. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Let's give the next generation of leaders another hand. Thank you all for your advocacy. March for Our Lives was an amazing event, and you did an outstanding job. Thank each and every one of you for your leadership and advocacy on gun control issues. With that, I'd like to go back to our agenda, Madam Clerk. Let's go to our next item, item number 26, but we will return to 24 and 25 shortly.
Thank you, Madam President. Item 26 is a motion to amend the Rules of Order of the Board of Supervisors by adding Rule 1.3.2 regarding political activities that are prohibited during public comment at Board of Supervisors meetings and the authority to enforce the rule.
Colleagues, can we take this item, same house, same call? Without objection, the motion is approved unanimously. Next item, please.
Item 27 is a motion to appoint Giselle Rayner, term ending February 1st, 2019, to the Park Recreation and Open Space Advisory Committee.
Same house, same call. Without objection, the motion is approved unanimously. Next item.
Item 28, motion to reappoint Eliva Hughes Gibson and Z. Malawa, terms ending April 29th, 2022, to the Children and Families First Commission.
Same house, same call. Without objection, the motion is approved unanimously. Next item.
Item 29 is a motion to approve the mayor's nomination for reappointment of William Adams to the Port Commission for a term ending May 1st, 2022.
Same house, same call. Without objection, the motion is approved unanimously. Next item.
Item 30 was referred without recommendation from the Rules Committee. It is a motion in its original state, a motion to approve or reject the mayor's nomination for appointment of Gail Gilman to the Port Commission for a term ending May 1st, 2022.
Supervisor Peskin.
Thank you, Madam President. Colleagues, as one of the three members of the board that has part of the port jurisdiction in his district, I wanted to make a motion to approve the mayor's nomination of Ms. Gilman for the Port Commission for the term ending May 1st, 2022. And let me start by saying the obvious, which is unlike the previous discussion that we had. I believe Ms. Gilman has been driving us all crazy, so no lack of contact. But in all seriousness, Ms. Gilman, who hails from the 3rd Supervisorial District, has really steeped herself in port policy, and I have to say, I've watched her in her role on the Building Inspection Commission, and when she indicated to me that she was talking to the mayor's office about potentially becoming a port commissioner, I said, do you know the public trust doctrine of the state of California? And she was honest and said she didn't know it yet, but weeks later, she was able to recite the intricacies and nuances of that complicated piece of public policy backwards and forwards, which I doubt any other member, and I mean no disrespect to Mr. Adams, can do. And for those of us who've been watching our emails and letters, the breadth of support that Ms. Gilman has received has, I think, spoken volumes. So I am honored to make a motion approving her nomination by the mayor.
Supervisor Peskin, you're making a motion to amend to approve.
Correct.
So Supervisor Peskin has made a motion to amend to approve, seconded by Supervisor Kim. Supervisor Kim.
Thank you. I just also wanted to add my words of support for Gail Gimmin, who currently serves as a commissioner on our Building Inspection Commission. I first met Gail in 2010 when she came on to fill in the big shoes of Jeff Kaczynski, who is also in the audience today, to become the executive director of Community Housing Partnership, an organization that I had long respected since I served as an organizer for Chinatown Community Development Center. And I just have to say, over the last 7 years, Gail has been one of the most tenacious and persistent advocates in fighting for supportive housing for formerly homeless residents, be it families, transitional age youth, and seniors. And she is someone who's smart. She does her homework. She works hard. She comes to meetings early. She comes to every meeting. She goes to every community event. She's there to listen. She's there to discuss. And this is what I want to see from one of our commissioners. She's already doing the work in the community, and I know that she will give her all to the Port Commission. I think it can be frustrating when we hear sometimes of commissioners that we put into these very important seats and to hear that their attendance or punctuality is not great. Gail is someone who I'm 100% confident will not only put all of her energies behind the meetings, but will do the additional work to go out to the community to make sure that she's hearing from them in terms of what they want to see. The Port does quite a number of things that are incredibly important, and land use and housing has emerged to become one of them. And this hasn't always been the business of the Port, but as the Port's role has changed here in San Francisco, they have increasingly become a body that has been building housing. And as someone who has done a lot of work around business housing in my district, I want someone who understands how development works and also knows how to fight for affordable housing, because we want to make sure that developments that are built on public property actually meets the needs of our residents, and affordable housing is one of those needs. So I just want to strongly support Gail Gimmin today. I think she's going to be an outstanding member, and there's no doubt in my mind that she is not going to give 200% to this commission.
Thank you. Seeing no other names on the roster, colleagues, can we take this same house, same call? Without objection, the motion as amended is approved unanimously. All right, let's go back to items 24 and 25. It is my understanding that the two commissioners in question are here and are happy to potentially answer questions from members of the board. I would like for members of the board to know that if they are not moved forward today, they will not be able to sit at another meeting for the MTA until we go through our process, which could be potentially problematic. And I'd like members of the board to, if you want to ask questions or if you still want to continue either one of these particular appointments, I think we are open to discussion at this time on these two items for either or. Supervisor Peskin.
Thank you, Madam President. Going back to my original comments, I actually just wanted to send the message going forward and was not trying to hold them up today. I think the board has spoken with a single voice relative to the concerns that I think we all share. And what I would like to do going forward is to invite Ms. Brinkman to come visit with me and all of us, but I'm prepared to vote for both of these items today, and I think we've delivered the message.
Thank you. Supervisor Peskin, would you... Oh, Supervisor Peskin. Supervisor Cohen.
Thank you very much. I'd just like to hear from Commissioner Brinkman as to why she did not reach out to any of the members.
Okay. Supervisor Brinkman, as you come forward. Supervisor Kim, did you have any comments?
I just wanted to correct my statement early. Director Brinkman did email my office and spoke with Noelle Young. I actually saw the email request and said I did not need to meet with Cheryl, and I apologize that I completely forgot about that interaction. So the director did reach out to me.
Thank you, Supervisor Kim. Supervisor Cohen.
I've already asked my question. I would like to know why you didn't reach out.
Thank you, President Breed. Through the President, thank you, Supervisor Kim, for that. I do understand how busy all of you are. And Supervisor Cohen, I apologize.
Please identify yourself.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Cheryl Brinkman, currently not on the SFMTA Board of Directors, hoping to be reappointed. I'm terribly sorry. I really did think I had until at least the next board meeting to reach out. As Supervisor Safai noted, I did reach out to the Rules Committee. I did reach out to Supervisor Kim, but then the time just got away from me, and it's unforgivable. I apologize, and I stand warned, and I think that our entire commission will be on a much firmer footing in terms of reaching out. I will absolutely pop an email to everyone again, which I apologize, I did on Monday when I found out that I would be here today. So I reached out 24 hours in advance, which is absolutely not enough for busy supervisors. It's not enough for anybody, really. I'll reach out again. I will provide everybody with my email. I will offer to come in. Serving on the SFMTA Board of Directors is very important to me. So I really hope that you will see fit to look over this total misstep that I made, complete misstep, and allow me to go ahead and continue to serve on the SFMTA board.
How long have you been serving?
About 7 years now.
How many appointment processes have you gone through?
This will be the third one, third and final. This will be my final term on the SFMTA board because we are limited to 3 terms.
So it is safe to assume that certainly for the first one you did your outreach, for the second one you did your outreach.
For the second one, I believe I did send emails. It was 4 years ago, so it's a little blurry. I did send emails. I don't believe that I actually met with anybody then. When the newest round of supervisors was elected, I did send emails providing every office with my cell phone number. I always make a point of saying I'm absolutely reachable by email, by cell phone. People can text me, people can email me. And I apologize. It just, as you know, things get busy. There's been a lot going on at the SFMTA board. I feel that I do a lot. Obviously, I don't do enough outreach to the supervisors. I spend a lot of time going to community meetings. I've visited so many of our divisions, and I visited the paint shop and the signal shop to meet with the workers there and to hear about the struggles that they go through. The PCO division, the parking control officers, excuse me, the proof of payment fare inspectors. I've done ride-alongs with meter maids. So obviously, I've spent a lot of time on internal outreach to the SFMTA and making sure that all of our employees know that the board sees what they do, that we appreciate what we do, that we understand how difficult their jobs are and what a huge difference it makes to our riding public. And I'll take this opportunity because I always take the opportunity to brag on the successes that our agency has achieved to remind everybody that in the last customer service survey, we had 70% of customers rated us good or excellent. So
Thank you.
It may be that I fell down on the job, but we are not falling down on the job.
Thank you. And Commissioner, you said that being on the commission is important to you. Can you explain more details as to why?
Absolutely. So I came to even think of serving on the SFMTA Board of Directors because I was one of the original organizers of Sunday Streets. And I was actually just reading through my original letter that I sent to Mayor Newsom to ask to be put on the SFMTA Board of Directors. And it was interesting. In the letter, I talked about how I felt that Sunday Streets was the most important thing I had done in the city. And I come from a background of pedestrian and bicycle advocacy and neighborhood groups, both Livable City and Dubose Triangle Neighborhood Association, Market Octavia CAC. But the work I did on Sunday Streets, allowing the city to open up the streets to families to enjoy on foot, on bike, to connect with their neighborhoods, to connect with their community, to remember what is on offer in their own city was so important to me. I realized that if I had the chance to do that on a wider scale, and I feel that we have done that. In the time that I've been on the SFMTA Board of Directors, we've added free muni for low and moderate income youth, for seniors, and for people with disabilities. We've embarked on some really very impressive equality and economic justice reforms. We have a great strategy around making sure that communities of concern get the proper outreach and get the proper transportation that we make sure that new mobility options, such as what's going on at my MTA board right now that I'm not at around the electric scooters, serve all citizens of the city and follow the rules. So it is very important to me. I worked in the city at McKesson Corporation for about 17 years. Last year, my job relocated to London without me because I wanted to be here in this city doing the work that I do.
Thank you. And speaking of communities of concern, on the one hand, as it relates to MTA, we're spending money to go after fare invaders. Is that what you call them, fare?
I think that people call them fare dodgers. We say it's a proof of payment policy.
Yeah, and oftentimes those persons who are receiving the tickets basically come from the communities of concerns, and we spend a lot of money to address that particular issue. And then on the other side, we have people who are riding Muni who don't feel safe, and there's some concern that we're not providing sufficient support for safety for people in stations and at on Muni and at bus stops. And so could you please help me understand what your thoughts are around those particular issues and why choose to go after people who are evading fares? And it's not to justify what they're doing, but it's more so why are we not choosing safety first?
Absolutely. So when we started the all-door boarding policy a number of years ago, we knew that with the all-door boarding policy, which has allowed our buses to speed up, to decrease the dwell time at the stops, that we needed to step up fare evasion practices. Before, everybody went in by the front door, everybody paid their fare. It was the bus driver's responsibility to make sure that people paid their fare. And bus drivers got into altercations with people trying to be that policing role, which it wasn't appropriate for them to do. With all-door boarding, people are coming in any door. The bus driver is removed from that responsibility of being the fare inspector. I'm happy and proud that we have decriminalized youth fare evasion. So in addition to offering free Muni to low and moderate income youth in San Francisco through the age of 18, we've also decriminalized fare evasion so that if somebody does get a fare evasion ticket, it doesn't have to go through the criminal courts. It's an administrative fine instead. As I said, I've done a ride along with our fare inspectors, and they have a tough job. They walk a fine line. They are fantastic men and women. They are people of heart and spirit. I know that on their job every day, they make a lot of very difficult calls about when do you ticket somebody and when do you not. I do have every confidence that they bring to that job the full scope of the knowledge of the city in which they work. So many times at the SFMTA board, we have to make difficult decisions about things that we have control over. A lot of times those decisions end up making some people very unhappy, other people's very happy. The decisions that we have to make that involve areas over which we don't have control are even more difficult. And I'm thinking of the vehicularly housed decisions that we've had to make around oversized vehicles. And safety on our buses is kind of one of those decisions as well. We're the SFMTA. We cannot solve social issues. All we can do and try to do is address the social issues that happen sort of on our watch, what we have control over, the parking spaces around the park where we might get oversized vehicles. A lot of people find if they are unhoused in our city, if they are marginally housed in our city, that unfortunately for some of the other riding public, our buses might be the warmest, safest place for them to be. Our buses might be seen.
Commissioner, I'm sorry. I think I'm going to stop you right there because I guess the question I should be more clear. It's really why is MTA choosing to spend money, to spend dollars on the San Francisco Police Department to address fare invasion rather than spending money for the San Francisco Police Department to address issues around safety? Why was that decision made is what I'm trying to understand more so.
They should be addressing both. And most of the fare evasion is handled by our own proof of payment inspectors. The SFPD should be running Muni to help people feel safer on Muni. I don't have an exact answer as to what the breakdown is on that, but that's certainly something that I can reach out to your office and we can talk about further.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Supervisor Fewer. I'm sorry, Commissioner, we're not.
I'm sorry, Supervisor Fewer.
Almost.
Yes.
We're just conducting our interviews this way.
I know, and I'm sorry that everybody has to listen to it. My bad.
Thank you for reaching out to my office yesterday. I wanted to just follow up on the 4 items that I went before the budget, your commission on, and that concerns your items in your budget and a plan for those items to be addressed. And so I believe that my staff will reach out to you for a meeting so that we can follow up that conversation on those 4 items that I spoke about before your commission, since I did not hear a response at all. But thank you very much.
Thank you, Supervisor.
Thank you. And I don't see any other names on the roster. So I think we're done. Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you, President
Brinkman. And seeing no other names on the roster, it seems as though there's no one asking for a continuance. So it looks like my colleagues are prepared to vote on these items. And item number 24, do we want to take that item? Same house, same call. Without objection, the motion is approved unanimously. Item number 25, same house, same call. Without objection, the motion is approved unanimously. Congratulations, ladies, and please continue to reach out to our offices, even though this has been affirmed. Thank you so much. All right, Madam Clerk, let's go to our 3 p.m. special orders, and we are going to have both of those hearings sitting as a committee of the whole. Okay. So please call items 31 through 34 together.
Okay. Item 31 through 32 comprise the Board of Supervisors sitting as a committee of the whole for a hearing scheduled pursuant to a motion M18-042 approved on April 10th, 2018 for a hearing to consider objections to the report contained in item 32, the report of assessment costs submitted by the Director of Public Works for inspection and or repair of blighted properties ordered through the Accelerated Sidewalk Abatement Program, the costs thereof having been paid for by the city out of the Blight Abatement Fund, and items 33 and 34. Item 33 is being scheduled as a committee of the whole pursuant to a motion M18-043 approved on April 10th, 2018 for a hearing to consider objections to a report of assessment costs submitted by the Director of Public Works for sidewalk and curb repairs through the Sidewalk Inspection and Repair Program, the costs thereof having also been paid for by the city out of the revolving fund.
Thank you. Colleagues, today's 2 committee of the whole hearings are being conducted together to consider objections to a report of assessment costs submitted by the Director of Public Works for inspection and or repair of blighted properties through the Accelerated Sidewalk Abatement Program for sidewalk and curb repairs through the Sidewalk Inspection and Repair Program, and to consider approving the underlying resolution. So let's open up this hearing, and we will first hear from the Department of Public Works.
Thank you. Good afternoon, President Breed, Supervisors. My name is Michael Lennon, and I'm appearing on behalf of San Francisco Public Works on behalf of both the Sidewalk Inspection and Repair Program as well as the Accelerated Sidewalk Abatement Program. With respect to the Sidewalk Inspection and Repair Program, as you may know, the program is a proactive inspection and repair program designed to inspect all sidewalks within San Francisco on a 25-year rolling basis with the goal of inspecting and repairing an average 200 blocks each year. The program is designed to make it easier for property owners to comply with State Highway Code Section 5611 and Municipal Public Works Code Section 706, which require them to maintain the sidewalks adjacent to their properties. Under this program, we perform inspections and notify property owners when defects are found that need to be repaired. Upon notification by the city to repair the sidewalk, property owners have the option of having a city contractor perform the work or hiring an independent contractor to make the repairs. When property owners elect to use the city contractor to make the repairs, or when no response is received and the requisite repairs have not been made within the time specified, the city will see that the repairs are made and then invoice the property owners. Pursuant to Chapter 80 of the San Francisco Administrative Code, if the owner fails to repair the sidewalk after having been notified, the city is entitled to make the requisite repairs and invoice the property owners. In instances where the property owner fails to pay, or when the property owners elect to have their cost of the repair placed on their property tax, Public Works will submit an assessment for the overdue amount to the Board of Supervisors for consideration to include in the next regular tax bill. In the past year, 1,939 invoices were issued, and 1,812 of those invoices were paid, which is 93%. As of May 1st, 2017, 147 invoices totaling 112,691.36 were removed from the original list through payments made in the recent weeks. Specifically, 147 of the 261 invoices were paid, which is 56% of those, and 112,691.36 recovered out of the $218,019.86, which is 52%. Therefore, the report we are submitting for your consideration has a total of 114 invoices totaling $117,967.92, including the 12% administrative fee. It is here that the department requests the board's approval of the list for assessment of sidewalk inspection and repair program properties. Similarly, whereas that's the proactive program, the accelerated sidewalk abatement program, which is the other item for your consideration, is more responsive. Again, we inspect residential and commercial properties and with the focus of expediting repairs for sidewalks that are found to be in poor condition. Under State Highway Code 5611 and Municipal Public Works Code 706, fronting property owners have responsible for maintenance and repair. Again, we inspect, notify the property owners of the defects, and if they fail to comply by having either electing to use our contractor or making the repairs on their own, we will see that the repairs are made. In the case when they fail to pay the invoice, which is inclusive of inspection fees, or when they elects to have the inspection fees and the repair costs placed on their property tax, Public Works will submit the assessment for the overdue amount to the Board of Supervisors for consideration and inclusion on the next regular tax bill. In the past year, we mailed 225 invoices, and 195 of those, or 87%, were paid. As of May 1st, 30 invoices totaling $42,671.74 were removed from the original list through payments made in the recent weeks. And 30 of the 60 invoices were paid, so that's 50%, and then $42,671.74 that was recovered out of the $114,124.24, so 37%, sorry. Again, in this report, we are submitting 30 invoices with the total amount of $80,026.80, and that again includes the 12% administrative fee. And again, the department requests the board's approval of this list for the blighted properties.
Thank you. Seeing no names on the roster, it looks like there are no questions. So we will open it up to public comment. If you are here for items 31 through 34 for this hearing, please come forward. You will have up to 2 minutes.
Hello, good afternoon, and thank you for your time. My name is Nicholas O'Neill. I'm a property owner here in the city. I guess I'm one of the people on this list. I received a notice attached to my door on April 13. That's why I'm here. The last contact I had with the city regarding our sidewalk was in late 2015. I spoke with a very helpful lady who took down all the details of the repair, which was frankly poorly executed. There were over 24 cracks still in the sidewalk after the repair had been completed, and the repair also, the gentlemen involved had splattered concrete all along the front of our building, all along our stucco work. So the lady who I spoke to at the end of 2015 said, "Thank you, I will send people out to inspect that and I will get back to you." I never heard back from her or anybody since, and as I say, the first I've known about this situation was the notice I found on my door on April 13th. Thank you.
Thank you. And sir, just wanted to let you and other members of the public who are here to speak on this item, there will be an opportunity to have a conversation with representatives from the Department of Public Works once we conclude public comment. And so we will recess the meeting and hopefully you can resolve your issue so that they can come back with possibly some amendments to your particular charge.
Okay, terrific. Thank you. I'll
Thank you.
be here. Thank you.
Next speaker, please. Are there any other members of the public who, if you could please line up to the right, any other members of the public who are here for items 31 through 34?
Yes, my name is Luz.
Ma'am, please pull the microphone close.
Oh, okay. My name is Luz Delliston, and I am the daughter of the owner of the home in 7 Nebraska Street, block 5656/045. My mother, Socorro Molina, lives in this resident in this home. And 14 years ago, my mom suffered a massive stroke, and she's been bedridden ever since. In 2004, I am the primary caregiver for my mom, and she's living in a fixed income, and I don't know how to pay this, the repair. And while I'm here, if I can plead to reduce the payment or make a compromise payment to be lowered so that we can afford to pay this bill.
Thank you. And ma'am, again, there will be an opportunity. Michael Lennon, he's the gentleman who did the presentation. When we're finished with public comment, he will step outside the chamber and you'll have an opportunity to make that request.
Okay.
And that's for everyone who's here for this particular purpose.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
My name is Patricia Ray. I'm representing my mother, who is a senior citizen, and the issue was she had sidewalk repair work done around April, and there was a lot of issues with a lot of splatter on her car, on the concrete. They had to come back and actually fill in some cracks that had been done. But the other issue that happened was they sent her a bill for $700, and then a week later, they sent another bill increasing it to $910 because they said that they didn't calculate the area. These are senior citizens we're dealing with. My mom has lived there since 1964. My dad just passed away, and they were married 65 years. She's on a fixed income. Not only did I talk to Mr. Diaz, he sent Mr. Nick Hawes over to my mom's house, and we had a 2-hour discussion about my mother has a legal SFMTA on her curb. That curb was splattered as well with concrete, and her car was splattered with concrete. So Mr. Haas came out, took it upon himself to add an extra 2 inches of red paint instead of addressing the issue of the splatter on the actual SFMTA part. And so he came back out, and my mom was trying to tell him about the car, and he actually wanted to fix her car, which he was not, in that position to put anything on the car as far as cleaning the car. That's the issue, the cleaning of the car. So I'm just here to let you know that these are senior citizens here, and that the prices that they're charging, and then one price you get, and then you come a week later, which I have all the documentation of it. Does that mean?
Yeah, your time is up, but you will have a chance to talk to Mr. Lennon after the public comment has been concluded. So if you would hold tight, it'll be just a minute.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Next speaker, please.
Oh, I believe that a lot of people may have been under the misperception that the city accepted responsibility for public sidewalk repair when and after the city returned to accepting public responsibility for public trees. So I'm unhappily surprised to learn today that private homeowners are still picking up the tab. I believe the city should accept rather than transfer those costs.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Yes, good afternoon. My name is Irma Encinas, and I'm here representing the property owners. My father and my brother both are disabled and Vietnam vets. And we received a notification saying that I had to come to this hearing because of costs that were done to the repair of the sidewalk. I find it kind of interesting because the city actually came by and this is going back to 2016, where there's 2 trees, and they took responsibility of wanting to remove the trees, and then the permit that was actually on the trees said that they were responsible for the construction of the sidewalk or replacement of the sidewalk. So later on, some inspector came by and put a notice on the building and said that we were responsible for the sidewalk. Then going back and forth, they ended up marking the sidewalk with green X's and white X's. Green X's was the responsibility of the city, and the white X's being the responsibility of the property owner. As of today, the green X's were done, which were supposed to be the responsibility of the city. The white X's have not been done. And the reason that the white X's have not been done is because of a financial issue. We can't afford to have it done. But more importantly is that I have evidence and pictures just showing the sidewalk itself, and there's nothing wrong with the sidewalk other than cracks, which are superficial cracks, similar to like the ones that are in front of this building outside on McAllister. So I'm here to dispute the charges because no work was done on our behalf. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Are there any other members of the public who are here to speak on items 31 through 34? Seeing none, public comment is now closed. And for anyone who is here, whether you spoke during public comment or not, Michael Lennon will join you outside, and he will help to address your specific needs and then return the verdict to us at a later time within our board meeting. So if you want to step outside and have a conversation with him, we'll get back to your particular items and concerns. Thank you all for being here today. All right, Madam Clerk, let's go to roll call for introductions.
Thank you, Madam President. First up to introduce new business is Supervisor Peskin.
Colleagues, as you know, I represent the geographically smallest but densest district in the city, which unfortunately has few remaining opportunity sites for development of housing, although I've continued to push aggressively on the remaining sites during the last 18 years, sites such as the old Embarcadero Freeway on-ramps and off-ramps. And as you know, some time ago, we actually passed a resolution with regard to using the fire station number 13 site at 530 Sansom Street. And so today I'm introducing another resolution to continue to meet our housing balance goals and move forward the development of a 100% affordable housing project at 772 Pacific Avenue, where you'll recall we actually expended some $5 million to buy that site where the new Asia restaurant is located. And there we have an opportunity to build up to 80 units of affordable housing on top of a new Asia restaurant. I've long had the idea to offer the air rights for development above Fire Station 13 for either affordable housing development or to fund affordable housing development somewhere else in the district. Chinatown is certainly feeling the pressures of the housing crisis, and we've been looking for ways to fund the development at the New Asia restaurant site. And through a collaborative process with the Mayor's Office of Housing and the Department of Real Estate and the Fire Department, I think we've struck the most feasible proposal to maximize public benefit, including rebuilding Fire Station 13. And I hate to use the proverbial term, but I think it's a win-win situation for all involved. And I can't think of a better way to kick off 2018's Affordable Housing Week. I encourage everyone to find an opportunity to come and get involved in Affordable Housing Week, starting with this Friday when the Council of Community Housing celebrates its 40th anniversary at the Women's Building. Next Tuesday, Yes to Affordable Housing will be hosting a panel discussion moderated by Rose Aguilar on upzoning with equity. I also want to acknowledge the hard work of the community leaders over at Discover Polk, the Mid-Polk area, who have finally reached the 30% plus threshold to conduct an election to form a Middle Polk Community Benefit District, which would be the city's 15th CBD. Middle Polk is an exceptional neighborhood with a lasting legacy of LGBT culture, vibrant small businesses, and a community that takes care of one another. The steering committee has been meeting since October 2015 and conducted feasibility analyses and done its due diligence and community outreach. I'm also excited to finally take the step. I should acknowledge, actually, Suzanne Markel Fox, who has been at the head and instrumental in the forming of this CBD proposal. I'm also excited to finally take the step in our efforts to protect our seawall, which is really protecting all of San Francisco, and I am proud to co-sponsor a bond measure for the voters to consider in November, because they all know, we all know, it's not a question of if, it's a question of when we have another big seismic event. And this seawall bond is one way we can take steps now to confront the inevitable. We're going to maximize every dollar to ensure the most cost-effective measures are implemented. And I want to thank Ms. Forbes and the staff at the port for bringing that proposal forward. And finally, I'd like to ask that we adjourn today's meeting in the memory of Jerry Barr, who was a dear friend and I had the opportunity to work with over many years, and was a member of the Summit Lake Paiute tribe and served on the tribal council in the Great Basin in Nevada. The rest I will submit.
Thank you, Supervisor Peskin. Supervisor Ronan.
Thank you. Colleagues, today I have an in memoriam for the loss of a beloved friend and colleague, Brian Quinn, who passed away a couple of weeks ago. And I want to acknowledge that Brian's sisters are here in the audience, as well as many of his colleagues and former colleagues from the Department of Homelessness and Supportive Services. And I just wanted to thank you all for coming out today in memory of Brian Quinn. For more than 2 decades, Brian has been a tireless advocate for those experiencing homelessness. Brian has held many positions with homeless services and housing, including case management, asset and property management, and most recently overseeing the city's expansion and implementation of navigation centers. Brian was not the type of person who left work at the office. He was always working and always helping connect people with care. Brian overcame adversity in his personal life and harnessed those experiences into a passionate commitment to help those in need of the basics for survival, starting with the very basic shelter. He was deeply driven and profoundly committed to getting people into housing and keeping them housed. This was not just his job, but it was really a calling. He would often spend his evenings and weekends helping people in the neighborhood who were in crisis get connected to family and services. Brian was a loving person who had a huge heart and a smile to match. He brought joy to the lives of everyone who knew him. He was a passionate advocate, an avid hiker, and a lover of all animals. Brian is survived by his 2 sisters, Nicole and Jordan Quinn, who are here with us today, as I said, and his beloved dog, Bella. Brian will be greatly missed by his family, friends, colleagues at the city, and by all the community that he served and loved. I also wanted to acknowledge, I don't know if Jeff Kaczynski, he's still there, there he is, who I know was a dear friend and colleague of Brian for so many years, and I know is missing him greatly and hurting a lot. So I just wanted to thank you, Jeff, for being here. And just say that Brian was just one of those special people. The minute you met him, you loved him. I think everyone can attest who's here. And I think his passing came as a shock to me, certainly, and to many that knew and loved him. There will be an official celebration of his life, of our beloved Brian Quinn. It is Thursday, May 3rd at the Kelly Cullen Community Center from 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. And just know, Brian, that we love and we will miss you very much. We hope that you can rest in peace and much power. The rest I submit.
Thank you, Supervisor. Supervisor Safai.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Today I rise to speak on a performance audit that was requested probably, I think, at our very first board meeting that we sat at, or maybe the second. But it was the very first request that I made, and I believe it's very timely based on the conversation we had last week regarding conservatorship of those with mental health illnesses. So today I'm asking for a hearing. That hearing will be scheduled hopefully very soon, and it will go to the Government Audits and Oversight. So this is an audit and hearing, particularly as it relates to mental health services in our city. One of the things that was very confusing to me, and I know many of my colleagues share this, is when you talk about the available med-psych beds at General Hospital, when you talk about the services in the community, when you talk about the services available in the jails, the number is always, the answer and the number and the result has always been a moving target. So for me, that was my motivation. Also, when it came to the conversation of those on our streets that were having violent interactions with the police, when it was those that were having violent interactions in the community, when it was a conversation about those that are living on our streets and dying on our streets as a result of homelessness and their mental health disorders and their substance abuse issues, it was important to me to get to the bottom of what are the available services and what type of services are in the city and county of San Francisco. So this audit will talk about the available services within the Department of Public Health, but it would also talk about many of the partnering nonprofit organizations like Instituto Familiar de la Raza, Mission Neighborhood Health Centers, All My Family Resource Center, services all over San Francisco that are also providing mental health services. Those that are living in group homes, those that are in our criminal justice system, those that are in our hospital system. What are the available services? What's the level of service? And what type of services are available to those that are particularly dealing with chronic homelessness and mental health disorders on our streets? So the rest I submit, but we are asking for that a hearing to review the performance out of the Department of Public Health and Department of Behavioral Health Services in particular. And then later on, we'll come back to another thing I'm co-sponsoring with President Breed. The rest I submit. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor. You'd like to be re-referred at the end?
I will speak after President Breed.
Thank you. Supervisor Sheehy.
Today, I'd like to introduce a resolution establishing the Castro LGBTQ Cultural District, and I really want to salute Supervisor Kim for both the Leather District and the Compton GI District. She's done really amazing work in preserving the culture of our community. I see this as an additional move to really preserve the history and culture of the Castro neighborhood and highlight the structures and sites important to the history of the LGBT community. It's no wonder that the Castro is known worldwide for being a center of the LGBTQ community for half a century. It's a beacon of hope. People come to San Francisco to the Castro seeking safety, acceptance, and a family that they create of their own. With the creation of the Castro LGBTQ Cultural District, I hope to further protect the integrity of this enclave from the many pressures that are facing our vulnerable communities due to the rapidly changing city, so that the Castro can continue to be the heart of the LGBTQ movement as it progresses well into the foreseeable future. And the rest I submit.
Thank you, Supervisor. Supervisor Stephanie.
Thank you, Madam President. Colleagues, today I'm introducing a resolution supporting Assembly Bill 2888. This bill, introduced by Assemblymember Phil Ting, will expand those who are eligible to file a gun violence restraining order. Under the current law, only immediate family and law enforcement are covered. This bill would expand those eligible to file the order to employers, co-workers, and employees of secondary and post-secondary schools. The gun violence restraining order would forbid a person from having custody or control of a firearm if a court finds the individual to pose a significant danger or causing personal injury to themselves or others. We know the federal government isn't taking action on these issues, but fortunately, our state lawmakers have heard the calls from their constituents. In the chambers today, you saw students from Lowell High School who have taken the charge and pressed their lawmakers to take action. These movements are changing the narrative of gun violence, and bills like AB 2888 are coming from the voices of those who want change. In the United States, we have seen over 500 workplace homicides each year, And from 2014 to 2017, there were over 1,300 mass shootings. As a city, we can only legislate a fraction of the issues surrounding gun violence, but supporting our legislators who have the power to approve bills like AB 2888 is essential to moving the needle on this issue. I have one more item. San Francisco is celebrating its 14th annual Small Business Week, May 14th through the 19th. Small Business Week concludes the week in celebrating shopping and dining in the city's merchant corridors on May 19th this year, obviously. A joint effort led by the San Francisco Council of District Merchants, Shop and Dine in the 49, and the Office of Small Business. I am pleased to sponsor this year's legislation that authorizes waiving the public work fees for temporary street space occupancy permits to support 15 merchant corridors throughout our entire city. This year marks the 12th year the Board of Supervisors has sponsored the ordinance, and I look forward to celebrating our small businesses during Small Business Week. The rest I submit.
Thank you, Supervisor. Supervisor Tang.
Thank you very much. Today I am introducing legislation to amend legislation that I passed previously, as you all know, called Home SF. And today I am joined by co-sponsor Supervisor Safai in trying to make some changes to the program that would be temporary in nature running through January 1st, 2020, so that we can encourage more project sponsors to take advantage of Home SF rather than programs such as the state density bonus law, which is frankly a lot more generous, but doesn't come with all of the different requirements that Home SF does require here in San Francisco. And so we have made a number of changes, such as creating 3 different tiers for affordability requirements, as well as ensuring a quicker timeline for Planning Commission consideration of the projects. And again, I think it is really important that we spent a long time trying to craft a very balanced piece of legislation that reflects a lot of what we believe in here in San Francisco. And I really hate to see that so many of these projects are opting for a state density bonus law instead, because, again, it is far more generous. So with that, I also have a resolution recognizing May 6th through 12th as Acoustic Neuroma Awareness Week in San Francisco. And this was brought to my attention by a former legislative aide, John Lau. So I want to recognize him. He'll be at the board next week, I believe, to speak on this item. With that, I submit.
Thank you, Supervisor. Supervisor Yee, you'll submit? Okay, thank you. Madam President.
Thank you. Colleagues, today I am introducing a resolution to approve the renovation of the Tennis Center Clubhouse in Golden Gate Park, as well as to accept a $24 million grant to make this renovation possible. The Tennis Center is located in District 5 and has been serving my constituents as well as the entire city and county of San Francisco for over 100 years. The grant, which generously donated through the San Francisco Parks Alliance and the $3 million already approved by our Recreation and Parks Commission, will help facilitate improvements to the 124-year-old tennis center, including a 7,500 square foot clubhouse, 17 new U.S. Tennis Association standard tennis courts, and the city's first dedicated pickleball court. The new clubhouse will also have dedicated ping pong tables for indoor recreation. I'm sure Mayor Lee would have loved that. And importantly, this renovation will support the expansion of the Tennis and Learning Center. The Tennis and Learning Center has developed a strong partnership with Hamilton Recreation Center as well as Rosa Parks Elementary School, which I attended. And through these partnerships, local students have received one-on-one tutoring, additional parent engagement, and tennis instruction. This new facility will serve middle school students throughout the city, where they can receive over 10 hours of personalized tutoring and 5 hours of tennis instruction every single week. Additionally, the new lighting on all of the courts will allow for an additional 20,000 hours of play time each year, meaning our kids and families will have more access and time to play in a safe and clean space year-round. I would like to thank my colleagues who are sponsoring this legislation, along with my co-sponsoring this legislation today, including Supervisor Safai, Supervisor Fewer, Supervisor Tang, and Supervisor Stephanie. I would also like to thank the San Francisco Parks Alliance and the Tennis Coalition of San Francisco for their support and advocacy of this project, our Recreation and Parks Department for working with our communities and listening to their needs for this site. And this project, I've seen the plans for it. It looks absolutely amazing and will be a shining jewel in Golden Gate Park. And I also especially want to thank all the dedicated people who raised the funds for this particular project to make this possible. And with that, I'd like to offer the floor to Supervisor Safai to talk about this particular item before I move on to my second item.
Thank you, President Breed. I mean, you thanked everyone and went over the history of the project. It is phenomenal. Let me just say that to have a $24 million private foundation gift from multiple individuals to help promote a sport that you literally can play until the day you die. I am a lifelong tennis player. I'm an enthusiast. My grandfather played tennis until he was 96 years old. He brought me on the court when I was 5.5 in the freezing cold in the Northeast and taught me how to play tennis. And those lessons have stayed with me until this day. There's so many different things that I want to hand on to my children, but I'm so excited that they are already at 6 and 7 years old, tennis enthusiasts. We have a wonderful coach in our neighborhood, Coach Joe. President Breed, you met him just recently. He is a wonderful, wonderful coach, but I would just say in the context of this tennis center, this allows for the expansion of children and families to have access to a very, very valuable sport. And it's one thing to have a tennis court in your neighborhood, which we're very excited. The Department of Recreation and Park have done a tremendous amount of work, particularly in my district and all over the city, resurfacing. But to have programming and have individuals that will be teaching young people in after-school settings and summer settings. I can tell you, we went through the process with our children, and there are very limited, there are not as many as you would imagine opportunities for children in the city. So to have a focused center, which, by the way, will have a center court, will have the ability to have championship games and tournaments, which is something unique that we don't have already. This is going to be a phenomenal, phenomenal asset for the entire city of San Francisco. So I want to, again, commend Rec and Park Director Phil Ginsburg, all the Friends of the San Francisco Tennis Center, Supervisor Fewer, Tang, and leadership of Supervisor and President Breed on this wonderful, wonderful asset that we will be handing down for generations to come, hopefully for the next 100 years in this city. So I'm a proud co-sponsor of this and really, really am excited to see this be implemented. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Safai. The second item I wanted to talk briefly about is Supervisor Peskin already touched on this, was the bond to fund needed improvements to our seawall. As this body's representative on the Capital Planning Committee, I have been deeply involved in the planning and discussion for this bond. Now, I know that most people may not enjoy spending money on something that you can't actually see. We have huge needs in our city right now, from homelessness and housing and public safety. But sometimes it's the infrastructure we can't easily see that makes all of the other things that we do possible, that makes daily life in our city possible. That is the role of the Embarcadero seawall, and it's why it's so important that we put this bond forward for the November ballot. Our precious waterfront in downtown San Francisco are regional and even statewide significance. This bond is critical to begin the work of making sure that the seawall protects us not only from sea level rise, but from the significant earthquake we know will come one day. It's scary to think of what could happen if we don't get this done. We only have to look at the devastation of things like the Superstorm Sandy in New York or Hurricane Katrina in New Orleans to know that there could be devastating impacts if we don't think about infrastructure in a responsible way and get the job done. So I'm looking forward to placing this on the November ballot and making sure that we get it passed by voters so we can get the important work of the seawall done to protect our infrastructure for years to come. And with that, colleagues, the rest I submit.
Thank you, Madam President. Supervisor Cohen. Oh, thank you. Supervisor Fewer.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to speak a little bit about the Golden Gate Park Tennis Center and how thrilled I am to be co-sponsoring with President London Breed on this legislation. This will serve seniors and pickleball players living in my district, District 1. And it will be the first dedicated pickleball court and will increase access through online reservations. And the new design will create new community hub for seniors in a larger community. I want to thank everyone who was a part of this because I know this was a huge endeavor. And also this is a gift, I think, to the city and county of San Francisco. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor. Supervisor Kim.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Colleagues, today is the first day of Asian Pacific Islander Heritage Month, and on this day I'm introducing 2 new programs with resources specifically to support our residents who are small property owners but also face the challenge of securing legal information and support because of language barriers. There are many small property owners who are doing their best to follow the laws in San Francisco about owning and renting, but finding an attorney who understands complicated tenant and housing laws and working for your best interests is not always easy, especially when English is not your first language. When you are trying to do the right thing and follow the law, language and lack of resources should not be an obstacle to your path. A few years ago, the city initiated a similar program in the context of ADA compliance and education program for businesses for small business owners who are being sued for accessibility violations under the Americans with Disability Act. Corridors of mom and pop business owners throughout San Francisco, mostly non-English speaking, did not understand why they were being sued and did not know how to find affordable legal help and what financial assistance was available to support compliance with laws, which of course we want all of our members of our city to abide by. I've been approached by members of the community who want to do the same thing for small property owners. They want to continue to rent their property on the housing market while following the law to be an honest landlord. But they do not want to incur liability and high costs that result when there's a conflict between landlord and tenants, especially when they have difficulty understanding the rules. But similar to the situation with ADA, most non-English speaking property owners tell me that they don't understand what they are doing wrong and need help when it comes to being a responsible and reasonable landlord. They need help when it comes to using legislation that was drafted a few years ago that allows property owners to build new units of housing, also called accessory dwelling units, or help and support in legalizing these units if they have them already in place. To save tenants the grief and stress of conflict with landlords that want to do the right thing, we can save our rent board resources for situations that we simply cannot arrive at positively. But we can support our limited English proficient community when it comes to doing the right thing from the get-go so that those conflicts do not start, both helping the tenants and landlords. I have asked the city's attorney office to create a program. I've also asked the city attorney's office to create a program to provide rebates or funds to small property owners who want to legalize or build an accessory dwelling unit on their property in San Francisco, but have been discouraged by the potential front-end cost of building or legalizing these units. We also want to understand how additional property taxes that incur when their house grows in value due to the new additional dwelling unit can impact their property value and construction costs. I'm putting forward a new legal resources and education program with community-based partners who have a history of working with the city on connecting residents with legal education, information counseling, and mediation services in multiple languages, such as Chinese and Spanish. No one should be afraid to advance and enforce their rights just because they cannot find help in their language. And these 2 new programs will support small property owners here in our city who are trying to help address the need for more housing by both putting their properties on the market and by legalizing or building additional units in their backyards. Thank you very much, and the rest I submit.
Thank you, Supervisor Kim. Madam President, seeing no other names on the roster, that concludes the introduction of new business.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, please read public comment.
At this time, the public may now address the entire Board of Supervisors for up to 2 minutes on items within the subject matter jurisdiction of the Board, to include items 37 through 43 on the adoption without reference to committee calendar. Public comment is not allowed when an item has been previously subject to public comment. Pursuant to the Board's rules, direct your remarks to the Board as a whole, not to the individual members of the Board and not to the audience. Speakers using interpretation assistance will be allowed twice the amount of time to testify. And if you would like to display a document on the overhead projector, please clearly state such to SFG TV and then remove the document when you'd like the screen to return to live coverage of the meeting.
First speaker, please.
Then he began to rebuke the cities in which most of his mighty works had been done, because they did not repent. Woe to you, Chorazin! Woe to you, Bethsaida! For if the mighty works which were done in you had been done in Tyre and Sidon, they would have repented long ago in sackcloth and ashes. But I say to you, it'll be more tolerable for Tyre and Sidon in the day of judgment than for you, because they never heard and saw what Jesus said and did. And you, Capernaum, who are exalted to heaven. Now, why was Capernaum exalted to heaven? Because he set up his headquarters around there. We have been exalted to heaven in the sense that we have a land filled with Bibles and Christians and churches. And even though many churches have now gone apostate and don't preach the Word of God, there still are many churches that do preach the Word of God. And so we've been exalted to heaven. And I think about that. I mean, Mike Pence came into our city. I thank God for Mike Pence and the NRA and for guns and the Constitution. And shame on you folks. You need to get saved. I sometimes think about that. If even one of you got saved, it'd cause an earthquake in San Francisco. It really would. But he goes on and he says, and you, Capernaum, who are exalted to heaven, will be brought down to hell. For if the mighty works had been done in you, for if the mighty works which were done in you had been done in Sodom, it would have remained until this day. But I say to you that it shall be more tolerable for the land of Sodom in the day of judgment than for you. So Christ is going to resurrect the people that were killed with fire and brimstone, and they didn't know much about God compared with those that heard Christ. See? And now we've got churches that are filled with homosexuals. Certainly, Jesus is coming back. We kicked a guy out of our church for committing adultery. It wasn't because we hated him.
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker, please.
Is this on? I don't think that Jesus would approve of those comments personally. My name is Amy Farah-Weiss. I'm the founder and director of the St. Francis Homelessness Challenge. And there's been a lot of talk today about this looming earthquake. And what would we do if there was an earthquake and 3,000 people were displaced? Let's think about that for a moment, supervisors. We could create 150 20-person transitional villages throughout the city on underutilized land with license agreements, insurance, and structure, and on-site support services. We could do that. How much does the city currently spend on our Move Along strategy for DPW and SFPD to shuffle homeless residents from block to block, homeless residents that are living in crisis conditions? The answer? $30 million. What if we invested $30 million into 150 20-person transitional villages with all those amenities? What if we had community integrated response? This could prepare us for what we would do in the event of an earthquake. Because I don't know if any of the supervisors know this. Raise your hand if you do. There's a Rockefeller Foundation report, the Resiliency Cities, and in it we say that we would create villages to respond to an earthquake with community integrated support and services. And so let's be forward thinking. The people in this room, many of you are responsible for making Mark Farrell our mayor. Let's remember that Mark Farrell just moved people and took away their tents without having a place to go. Everybody in this room is accountable, and everybody in this city is accountable for what's happening on our streets. We can do better. We can say that this is a crisis, and we have one-to-one support for safe, organized spaces for everyone currently on the street.
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker, please.
Hi. Good afternoon, supervisors. Once again, thank you for having me here in the building of the people and at City Hall. Supervisors of San Francisco, my name is Thomas Stolmar. Too many people on the earth. Too few who hold the oak door open and nod to the passing stranger as the passing God. Look from the stars and you will see whereto this hungry fungus man has spread his drab compactions and is spreading until the space made rich by nature for his ease and grace is petrified as fruit is by a scab. Packed on this dwindling planet, famished, men will push and fight like beasts. No grandeur then, no high designs, no epic dream, no play, no poised serenity in what they say, nor reasoned kindness in the things they do. This is not fancy, this is deathbed true. Those are the words of the poet Max Eastman. And I remind you all of where you live and what the purpose of this city is. And I thank you for following through on that purpose. And I would like to offer and propose the creation of a quality of living advisory board in this city, because we know that the quality of living has gone down the toilet for those who work for a living, not just the rich people like Ms. Feinstein or somebody who lives up in a village. We built this building. I'm a carpenter. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments, sir. Next speaker, please.
Good afternoon, Supervisors. David Elliott Lewis. Happy May Day. In addition to this being May Day, this is the start of May, and May is also, among many other things, Mental Health Month. I wear green, lime green. I'm attempting to wear lime green because it's sort of the color that our state mental health agencies have designated as our color, the way, yellow for the troops, red for AIDS, and green for mental health. And as we proceed with mental health groups, and as more discussions are had on our conservatorship bill, SB 1045, I hope you will, before you finally pass it and approve it, have a hearing, a public hearing that's dedicated to this. When you talk about taking away people's civil liberties, it's a serious thing, and I think the public should have a chance to weigh in. I will personally reach out to individually to supervisors with some ideas to improve this legislation. I think if it's going to go forward, and it looks like it just might, I think it can be improved and made more humane. And I hope you'll listen to me and a delegation I'll bring with me from the mental health community. It's a serious thing, and yet there are heartbreaking cases on the street. People clearly gravely disabled, people clearly falling through the cracks who do need help, and I understand the desire to help these people. But I think there's a right way to do it and a better way to do it, and we're not quite there yet with what's been proposed. So I hope you'll consider this public hearing on SB 1045, and I hope you'll be willing to meet with me and my delegation. Thank you so much for your time. I'm finishing before my time is up. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you kindly. Next speaker, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Anand Subramanian, and I ask for your support on Resolution 180-428 regarding the police MOU. I want to thank Supervisors Fewer, Cohen, Yee, and Ronan for introducing this resolution and the full board for considering it. A few weeks ago in this room, myself and a number of other folks from the No Justice, No Deal coalition urged the city to take a bold negotiating stance with the POA. City Proposal Number 22 is a bold but reasonable proposition. It is supported by Chief Scott. It is supported by the ACLU. It would help expedite the unanimously supported DOJ recommendations. If you pass this resolution today, and let me be clear, it has to be passed today to fit within the window of arbitration, it would make clear to the arbitration board chair that this contract isn't just about dollars and cents. It's about safety. It's about improving and modernizing policing in the city. POA leadership is upset that these negotiations haven't been business as usual. In its May bulletin, it engages in its typical divisive rhetoric, cherry-picking of facts, and specious arguments that the POA hasn't challenged the DOJ recommendations. This us versus them mentality further divides police and community and is another example of our concerns that in the absence of a contract term like City Proposal Number 22, the POA would have free rein to block, delay, or weaken the DOJ recommendations. Please pass this resolution today to advise the arbitration board chair of your strong support for the city proposal and for the DOJ recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker, please.
Good afternoon, supervisors. My name is Julian Gross. I'm a San Francisco resident and an attorney with an organization called Policy Link, working with the No Justice and No Deal Coalition. I also wanted to urge you to support the resolution pertaining to the police contract negotiations. I just wanted to speak very briefly on a legal point that's come up in some of the public communications around this. This is the question of whether the proposal from the city, proposal number 22, is in any kind of tension with state law or normal labor practices. The city recommendation 22, the city's proposal, coming from this administration with the support of the board, we hope, is that simply that the POA agree in the future to meet and confer over policy changes that come out of the policy reform process to implement the DOJ recommendations, but that they waive their right to take those changes to a closed-door arbitration process where the city actors would not have final control over what kind of policies for policing the city wants. The concept that as part of a voluntary labor agreement with concessions in other areas, a union can agree to waive their impasse arbitration rights is well established, and in fact there are a couple instances of that in the current contract. So nobody would be forcing the POA to do this. It's not in tension with labor law. It's something they've done before and is even done in the current contract, and I just wanted to really support the city or to urge you to support the team in the city as my predecessor said, keeping in mind that this contract is not just about dollars and cents. This is a reasonable proposal from the city, and it really is going to validate the incredible amount of work being put into the DOJ reforms right now to preserve the city's ability to enact them. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker, please.
Oh, I believe that voluntary access to resources are beneficial as long as they don't lead to rent seeking in the form of mandatory course requirements for landlords to attend and to pay for, or landlord licensing, which may be, I believe, something legislation a senator in Sacramento is presently trying to cobble together.
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker, please.
Good afternoon, supervisors. My name is Father John Kirkley. I'm the rector of St. James Episcopal Church here in San Francisco and a member of the Board of Directors of Faith in Action Bay Area. I'm here today to urge your unanimous support of the resolution urging the Arbitration Board to incorporate City Proposal Number 22 into the MOU between the City and County of San Francisco and the San Francisco Police Officers Association. City Proposal Number 22 is necessary to ensure timely implementation of the U.S. Department of Justice's recommendations for reform of the SFPD. These reforms are universally endorsed by city leaders and enjoy widespread public support. The only barrier to implementation has been the POA. The fact that the POA's chief negotiator, Sergeant Tony Montoya, was sued for police brutality in the Travis Hall case and was previously disciplined by the police commission after he was accused of covering up the beating of a handcuffed suspect tells us everything that we need to know about the POA's credibility when it comes to supporting police reform. They aren't even trying to look like they care about it. While POA President Martin Halloran laments that the mayor's office should have, quote, worked things out with the POA contract negotiations, as has been the case in the past, I commend you for supporting a more transparent process that takes seriously the public interest and community values. Police union contracts should not be matters for backroom deals behind closed doors. Police officers are public employees subject to democratic oversight and accountability. At least they should be. Please unanimously support City Proposal Number 22 to ensure meaningful police reform, accountability, and public safety. No justice, no deal. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker, please.
It might be informative for you supervisors to be reminded of who you are dealing with when you make your decisions regarding the police contract. The SFPOA insulted the former close friend, Mayor Mark Farrell, because he insulted them by daring to link their pay raise to a concession aimed at getting a minimal degree of cooperation from them in the SFPD reform process. When Chief Scott dared to tell the truth about Proposition H, calling their scheme to overturn the Commission's policy on tasers in favor of a far looser standard, the antithesis of collaborative reform called for by Obama's DOJ, they insulted him by calling him an abject failure, someone without a mind of his own who had been played like a cheap fiddle. When she pursued use of force reforms called for by Obama's DOJ, they insulted and targeted then Police Commission President Susie Loftus in a slick public relations campaign. When she dared to speak out against racism in the SFPD, they insulted and attacked Officers for Justice then President Yolanda Williams. When officers did their duties and reported acts of misconduct, they insulted them by labeling them snitches. When she backed a quite mild, non-binding resolution on the need to address police relations with the communities of color, they insulted Supervisor Cohen by telling her, "You must have lost your mind."
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker, please.
Hi, my name is Lauren. I was born and raised here in San Francisco. My dad and my grandparents were born and raised in Chinatown. I'm a resident of District 3. So Supervisor Peskin, I called your office yesterday and I asked if you were supporting this resolution that we're talking about, City Proposal Number 22, and I was told that you have no public opinion. I hope that you vote yes on it. I want to urge all of you to support this resolution. I have deep roots in San Francisco, and I've been out to rallies for where we've been supporting the families of people who've been killed by the police, like Mario Woods, Luis Gongorapat, Alex Nieto, Amilcar Perez Lopez. I've seen the pain of the friends and family of these people, and I really believe that if the police had been implementing these reforms, that these young men would not have been killed. And so I've been to police commission meetings where the POA is very clearly against the reforms, and it really breaks my heart to see that. So I hope that you support this resolution. Sorry, this is the first time I've ever been at a Board of Supervisors meeting, and I'm just learning to use my voice, and so I want to know that I can be heard. I also wanted to speak out against the sweeps of the tent encampments. I'm sorry. Okay. That has also really broken my heart. I went out to, oh my gosh. Sorry, I'm really nervous. I went out to Division and Bryant on Wednesday morning, and I saw, oh my gosh, I'm sorry.
It's okay, ma'am. It's okay. Just breathe.
Sorry, I hope for real solutions and not just sweeping them out of their tents and giving them nowhere to go. Okay.
Thank you for your comments. Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Buenas tardes, gracias por darnos este espacio. Yo soy Daisy Kamei, parte de Fe en Acción.
Hi, I'm Margaret Stafford. I'll be translating. Good afternoon, and thank you for giving us this space. I'm Daisy Martinez with Faith in Action.
Lo que acaba de pasar ha pasado en la comunidad. Esto yo le llamo frustración en la comunidad.
What's just happened in the community is causing a lot of frustration in the community.
Yo en vez de mantenerme con la frustración, estoy pensando que cada institución necesita una reforma. Yo como católica,
and I think that every institution needs a reform. So as a Catholic,
he visto que en mi religión han habido reformas.
And I've seen as a Catholic that there have been reforms in my religion.
Y conecto que un cirujano está para salvar vidas y saber usar sus pinzas.
And the purpose of a surgeon is to save life and know how to use their instruments.
Toda institución debe saber su trabajo y qué elementos usar.
Every institution needs to know its instruments and how to use them.
Así es que estoy apoyando que hayan mejores cambios para que la comunidad no esté tan frustrada. Que hayan cambios en las leyes.
And so I want there to be changes in the laws.
La reforma es necesaria de lo que están pidiendo las personas.
The reform is necessary that we've been asking for.
Y por algo de ser, o sea, las reformas son necesarias de un día para otro, pero ni modo. Los cambios son necesarios de un día para otro, no estar igual.
And all the changes are necessary. They're not equal.
Así es que nosotros, nuestra comunidad, estamos apoyando todo esto y no queremos más frustraciones en la comunidad. Nos hemos dado cuenta que han estado pasando problemas que no han sido tratados como deben ser.
And so in our community, we are supporting these reforms.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Gracias por sus comentarios.
And good afternoon, Supervisors. My name is Margaret Stafford, and I'm a doctor in San Francisco, a resident in District 8, and part of the No Justice, No Deal Coalition. I'm just going to speak briefly because you've heard other people talk about this, but I'm here to include my support for City Proposal 22 to include police reform in the Memorandum of Understanding that's currently being negotiated. I agree with the American Public Health Association, which sees police violence as a public health issue, which impacts the well-being of communities. And ensuring police reform is crucial for ensuring both community well-being and trust in the police. So I hope that you all will join together in supporting City Proposal 22. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker, please.
Good afternoon, Supervisors. My name is Stephen Schmid. I'm here on item number 40, the proposed resolution regarding the early day statute out here in front of City Hall. I urge one of you, if not all of you, to oppose the resolution. If you read the resolution, you will note that it has no allegation of fact or law whereby a rehearing before the Board of Appeals should be undertaken. A lot of you are fellow attorneys, and you appreciate the distinction between respecting the judiciary and the legislative branch. I see this proposed resolution as an intervention by the legislative branch improperly into a function that has been duly assigned to the quasi-judicial body, the Board of Appeals. The charter has established a commission to address these issues, and the commission has acted fairly after a full hearing of all the facts. As just argued, the proposed resolution has no facts or law whereby this body should intervene into a decision of the Board of Appeals. The subject early day statute is protected by California Civil Code Section 857. It is against the law to destroy any piece of art, but most certainly a piece of public art that's been here for over 100 years, withstood the 1906 earthquake, and has been here longer than any of us, or this building, or anything else in this historic district. It's a perversion of art to destroy art. Thank you very much for your time and attention.
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker, please.
Buenas tardes y muchas gracias por darnos la oportunidad para poder apoyar aquí a la supervisora Sandra Fugger. Mi nombre es Luis Armando Pot, soy primo de Luis Góngora Pat. Es una pena y una vergüenza muy lamentable venir a estar luchando para que la organización de la policía haga su trabajo. Espero que todos los supervisores tomen en cuenta cómo las familias que estamos traumados por los hechos que ocasiona esta organización aquí de Policía de San Francisco, no siga pasando. Que no sean parte ustedes de este tipo de problemas, porque es muy lamentable que las policías estén destruyendo nuestras familias. Las policías aquí deberían estar ayudando a las familias los problemas que tenemos cuando los hablamos, no para que nos destruya nuestra familia o nuestra comunidad. Tenemos miedo a la policía. Y es muy lamentable que una ciudad americana, una ciudad como San Francisco, una ciudad santuario, esté pasando este tipo de problemas. Que tomen en serio el trabajo de hacer estas reformas y que ustedes como supervisores no le permitan en su nuevo contrato que interfieran en los cambios y reformas que deberían tener en la institución y organización de la policía. Es muy lamentable y es una vergüenza para esta ciudad. Muchas gracias.
I will be translating. Good afternoon. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to support the proposal from Supervisor Sandra Fuhr. My name is Luis Putpat. I am the cousin of Luis Góngora Pat. It is a shame that I have to be here to fight so that the police do their job. All of us families who are traumatized by the damage created by SFPD. Supervisors, do not be part of the problem. The police is destroying families. When we call them, they should be helping us, not killing us. We have a lot of fear, and it is a shame that in a sanctuary city, this is the result. Do not allow us supervisors that the SFPOA interfere in the process of reform. Supervisors, uphold the reform process of SFPD. And now I will provide my own comment.
Gracias por sus comentarios, señor.
I also am in support of Supervisor Fuhr's proposal number 22. It hasn't even been a week since, as a member of Justice for Luis Góngora Pat, and with Luis Putpat and the brother of Luis Góngora Pat, we held a 24-hour vigil outside the Hall of Injustice at 850 Bryant in remembrance of the 24 people killed by police with absolutely no accountability. There has been these killings, these 24 killings have happened in a context of scandal, of a racist, homophobic, misogynist police force that also exercises bigotry against the poorest among us, against the extremely poor, just like Luis Góngora Pat. It is the smallest of requests to ask the supervisors to ensure that the SFPOA does not interfere in the reform process. This is a strengthening of the democratic processes put into place when you decided that the Police Commission and SFPD had specific roles. So once again, I ask you to support Supervisor Fuhr's Proposal 22. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker, please.
Good afternoon. I'm Father Richard Smith from Faith in Action. My family and I have lived in the mission, and I have worked there as a priest for many years. I want to speak in favor of Supervisor Fewer's resolution regarding the MOU with the POA. This time around, contract negotiations with the POA must be different. These negotiations come after decades in which rogue police officers have brutalized and killed many young people of color. The POA leadership has not only defended, but actually emboldened these rogue officers. So this contract needs to be negotiated differently, more transparently for sure, but also with an eye to expediting reform, as this resolution proposes. It's been 2 years since the city committed itself to the reforms proposed by the DOJ, but we're not seeing these reforms on the streets. After the police killings of Alex Nieto, Amilcar Perez Lopez, Mario Woods, Jessica Williams, Luis Gongora Pat, after each of these horrific killings, we were assured the DOJ reforms would end these nightmares, that we could turn the page. No more families torn apart. No more moms and dads in tears. But then just this January, Kata O'Neill, an unarmed man, was killed by a rookie cop who had just completed all the updated training at the academy. And just a few weeks ago, Jesus Adolfo Delgado, 19 years old, was killed by 99 bullets, 99 police bullets by 10 officers in the mission. All the promised reforms, we're not seeing them on the streets. This is the larger context of these negotiations, and it requires a different approach this time. The POA must agree to cooperate with, rather than block, the DOJ's reforms or pay a price.
Thank you kindly for your comments. Next speaker, please.
Good afternoon, Honorable Supervisors. Frank Martin del Campo Lacla, Delegate, San Francisco Labor Council. I rise under item 39 for the purpose of informing the board and requesting appropriate action regarding the extent and the degree of the problem that we're having with the association and some of its leaders. In that regard, I have referenced in the past letters that were sent to our Labor Council by the POA. I have one such letter.
SFG TV, please. Thank you.
This was a letter that was sent back in June of 2009, raising concerns regarding a decision made by the San Francisco Labor Council in regard to the SF8. I'll be leaving copies for the board at the end of this presentation. The next item is we have a copy of a letter dated December 18th. Excuse me. Well, this was an article in the POA Journal regarding another decision made by the San Francisco Labor Council. The letter speaks for itself. And lastly, this is a letter or part of the POA outbox that refers to the resolution that the association leaders had a problem with. I ask you to take a look at this. Actually, when we have police enforcement, it should not cover police thought.
Thank you for your comments.
Something about.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Next speaker,
Welcome.
please.
My name is Sandra Dratler. I have lived in the Richmond District for 33 years and reside in District 2. I love my city and want only the best for it and those who live and work here. Within this desire, I place police accountability and community safety as high priorities. I became aware of the No Justice, No Deal campaign through Faith in Action. I knew of the COPS report when it was first requested and then issued. I was impressed with the common sense recommendations, areas where police could better serve the community while continuing to provide a safe workplace for themselves. I am dismayed to find that despite best efforts by police and community leaders, claims of support by the POA, little progress on implementation of the major reforms has been made. These concerns have evolved into a proposal made by the city to include in the POA contract language that addresses accountability. The proposal number 22 is an incremental change to current policy. The difference is that it is now contractual, part of the transparency we as citizens want as the city and our police force work together. I was present at the arbitration hearing when testimony of this proposal was heard. The resistance and disrespect coming from the POA's side of the table towards Chief Scott and the city contract negotiation team was palpable. The proposal represents an opportunity for the POA to show its good faith as important changes such as the COPS recommendations are moved forward. I ask your support in urging the arbitration board to incorporate city proposal number 22. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker, please.
Good afternoon. John Talbot, part of the Chiefs working groups on the reform. I want to give a moment to give you an idea of where we are in the reform and to speak in favor of Supervisor Fewer's proposal. Tomorrow's agenda for the review covers item 65.1. The SFPD does not sufficiently analyze Office of Citizen Complaints reports and analyses of its complaints, investigations, and case depositions. That's the finding by the DOJ. The answer that we're going to consider tomorrow is the SFPD should develop a department internal priority to regularly review and analyze OCC complaint reporting to identify priorities for intervention in terms of workforce culture, training, policy clarification, or leadership development. I want it to be clear that the point we are in the reforms is merely asking the department or getting the department to begin to process complaints correctly. So to understand the context of some of the comments made here about reforms not having happened, it's moving very slowly. Now, I fully believe that Chief Scott is behind it. Supervisor Breed asked us at a previous hearing if we were working with the local police, and in fact, we are working very closely with our local community relations person, the oft-mentioned and oft-praised Lieutenant Williams, who is, in fact, one of San Francisco's finest. But I want to make sure that as we look toward this, we're asking for reasonableness, but the reform process is not moving quickly, and the reasons for that have been previously stated. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Before the next speaker begins, I'd like to just invite any other member of the public who would like to address the board during general public comment. Please prepare by coming to your right-hand side of the chamber. Mr. Gilberti.
Thank you. The overhead, please.
SFG, thank you.
We don't have a championship police department yet. We would like it. We're not there. October 27, 2015, I submitted this a 5-housing point plan. Let's see if it's anything's appropriate. Ban Ellis Act convictions with appeal process. Ban no fault, no cause evictions with appeal process. Freeze all market rate rents. Reset long-term resident rents. Establish one city rent control for all. And fourth part, I changed renter's dividend. I changed that to landlord renter's dividend and a landlord's entry into the San Francisco Public Bank. Renters can receive, depending on how long they live there, a percentage of the sales price. You might call the renter's dividend. No obligation to move. And then the new residential formula, let's put this at the McDonald's property that the city just bought. 30% open market, open to the world, 10% 30-year resident, local zip code for seniors that have lived in the area, 15% senior residents that have been there for 20 years. They could move into a new property. 5% 30-year San Francisco residents, 65 or older, seniors were helped. 20% teachers, fire, muni, employees, city, water, and 20% were building for the community-specific needs, low income, affordable homes, veterans, graduated foster kids, seniors, disabled, Section 8. Would that be appropriate today? We can't be done. We can't do that. Words. It just can't happen. Diversity or integration? Which ones would you rather have? Which one's healthier for this city? We can do it. We have to do it. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. President Breed, ladies and gentlemen of the board, my name is Winship Hillier. I am an involuntary psychiatric outpatient in this city. Some 8 years ago, my brain was destroyed, and I am, as a result, permanently disabled. And this was done without a rational basis. It was done without a compelling state purpose. And it was done without any due process whereby I would have challenged the lack of a rational basis, to say nothing of a compelling state purpose. And so this was done by an organization funded by your body. So tell me, how am I to regard you as other than thieves, criminals, liars, murderers, and rapists? And tell me more. I want to know how I'm to regard your antics in this chamber, your perspicuous attention to rules, procedure, and the letter of the law, when you turn around and fund at the rate of over $1 million a year citywide case management community focus, which has no respect for the law, and the blood of their crimes covers your hands. Madam Clerk.
Madam President.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the public who'd like to provide public comment at this time? Seeing none, public comment is now closed. Madam Clerk, let's go to the items for adoption without reference to committee.
Items 37 through 43 are being considered for adoption without reference to committee. Apologies. A single roll call vote may enact these items, or an item can be severed and considered separately.
Okay. Supervisor Fuhr.
Yes, I'd like to sever item number 39, please.
Oh, I apologize, colleagues. Before we go to the items for adoption without reference to committee, it is my understanding that Mr. Lennon is ready, and we have a number of people waiting. So if you don't mind, I'm going to take items 32 and 34 first, and we'll go from there. And I'm going to remove the names from the roster. Mr. Lennon.
President Breed, Supervisors. Again, Michael Lennon on behalf of Public Works, and reporting back after our discussions in the hallway on both those who showed up and submitted written comments for SERP and ASAP assessments. With respect to SERP, after their conversations, we have removed 7 properties from the list with 107 remaining. Of those, there was 1 settlement reached, 4 payment plans, and 1 paid in full, and we removed another to address a billing discrepancy. In the case of the Accelerated Sidewalk Abatement Program, ASAP, we removed 4 from the list with 26 remaining. There was 1 settlement reached, whereby if the repairs are made within the next 30 days, we will waive the assessment of the inspection fees, and then we moved 2 properties in order to address quality control issues. I'm available for additional or answer any questions if you have them.
Okay, colleagues, are there any discrepancies with item number 32 specifically? No? Okay, is there a motion to amend item number 32 to strike the lines? They're not listed as lines. Block 4081, 4081 on line 2 and 3, or do we need to read that in the record specifically, Mr. Givner?
Deputy City Attorney John Givner, you don't need to read it into the record as long as the department has provided the document and it will be available to the public.
Okay. So based on the document provided to the Board of Supervisors and available to the public, is there a motion to amend item number 32? Moved by Supervisor Yee, seconded by Supervisor Peskin. Colleagues, can we take the amendments without objection? Without objection, the amendments pass. And colleagues, on item number 32 as amended, can we take that same house, same call? Without objection, the item as amended passes unanimously. On item number 34. Supervisor Safai.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. As you, I don't know if any of you noticed, but on this item, almost 99% of these are in my district, and I know that happens on a kind of rotating basis. A couple of the discrepancies that or at least some of the larger questions I have. One is the 12% admin fee for recording this lien. I reached out to the assessor recorder. She's happy to sit down and work with us about the process in the spirit of fees and fees in the city. As you heard, majority of people that came here today are folks on fixed income. This is very long-time homeowners, and I am, let me just state off 100% on the record that I am all about safety and all about fixing these sidewalks. But in this instance, this was just brought to me in the last week or so. I believe I have some solutions to mitigate some of the costs to these homeowners. One is we have money that were allocated in the budget in the previous year to plant trees. Almost 85% of these listings do not have a tree in front of their house. So we would request respectfully 2 or 3 week continuance so we can work with BSM and the Treasurer's Office to resolve some of these matters. I think I have to do a state specific. So what I need to do is, no, before I'm going to ask specifically what I want. I'd like to duplicate item number 34. And we're going to amend the duplicated resolution to only include District 11 addresses. And then we would continue the item as amended to May 23rd.
I'm not sure that that's possible.
We checked in advance.
Mr. Givner?
Yeah.
Sure. Deputy City Attorney John Givner, I think the idea is continue the District 11 properties so the board could act on those, but approve the liens for all other properties.
I understand that, but there's no need to duplicate the file, I believe, to do that.
You would be adopting a resolution today approving the lien for all non-District 11 properties, so you would duplicate the file so that you would have one to pass today, approving the liens for all non-District 11 properties, and continue the duplicate to May 22nd.
Okay, and then also we would need to amend it. So I will take, before you make that motion, Supervisor Safai, can we please first entertain a motion to strike the particular lines that are being proposed by the Department of Public Works?
Sure.
To amend that first?
Absolutely.
Okay, is that a motion?
That's a motion to strike.
Okay, is there a second? Seconded by Supervisor Ronan. Colleagues, can we take that motion without objection? Without objection, the motion passes. And now, duplicate the file?
Yes. Item number 30, duplicate item number 34, and amend the duplicated resolution to only include District 11 addresses.
Okay.
And then continue the item as amended to May 23rd.
Okay. Supervisor Safai has made a motion to, well, first of all, he has duplicated the file, and then he made a motion to amend the duplicated file, and we will be basically, that sounds more like dividing the file, but I guess we're duplicating the file for the purposes of having two files, one which includes everything except District 11, the other that only includes District 11, with the idea of moving the non-District 11 items forward today, and the others will be continued for how long, Supervisor Safai?
May 23rd.
May 23rd. Is there a second? Did I get a second? Seconded by Supervisor Cohen. May 22nd?
May 20, sorry.
Okay, seconded by Supervisor Cohen. Supervisor Kim?
I feel very uncomfortable with doing a district-specific request. If Supervisor Safai really needs the time, I'd like to move all of them to a continuance for 2 weeks if that's okay with the department. But I don't feel comfortable just taking out one district of addresses.
I'm fine with
Supervisor.
that. I'm fine with that. I talked to some of the other supervisors, but if they're okay with that, let's just send the whole file. That's fine.
Is there, Mr. Lennon, is there a problem with a continuance? Can you tell us what a delay could potentially mean?
In discussion with the city attorney's office as well as the clerk's office earlier today, there did not appear to be an issue. Our initial concerns were that we would have to go through the reposting process to post all the properties to provide them adequate notice of a future hearing, but that does not appear to be necessary in this case. So with that being said, the department's amenable to continuance.
Okay, so do you withdraw your motion?
Sure. If the other affected supervisors or districts are fine, I'm fine with continuing the whole list.
Okay, so Supervisor Safai has he has withdrawn his previous motion. We have amended the file, and so there is a motion to continue the file as amended without the duplication to the meeting of May 22nd, 2018. Is there a second? Seconded by Supervisor Ronan. Colleagues, can we take that without objection? Without objection, this item will be continued to the meeting of May 22nd, 2018 as amended.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk, let's go to the items for adoption without reference to committee.
Yes,
We've
ma'am.
already called those items. Supervisor Fewer has asked for which item number to be removed?
39, please.
39. Supervisor Stephanie?
Do I wait until Supervisor Fewer?
Yes, this is just to remove which items?
Oh, I was going to ask to send item 39 to committee.
Okay.
I can.
Okay, so Supervisor Stephanie, request to send an item to committee takes precedence over hearing that item today, so item number 39 will go to committee.
After we call it, Madam President.
Thank you. Supervisor Tang?
Item 42.
Okay, Supervisor Cohen?
I was going to ask to sever item 42 as well.
Okay. On the remaining items, colleagues, can we take those same house, same call? Without objection, the remaining items are passed unanimously. Please call item number 39.
Item 39 is a resolution to urge the Arbitration Board to adopt and incorporate City Proposal Number 22, requiring the San Francisco Police Officers Association to request to meet within 14 days of any changes involving United States Department of Justice recommendations and to waive fact-finding and impasse procedures if no agreement is reached into any new memorandum of understanding between the city and the San Francisco Police Officers Association.
Supervisor Stephanie?
I have to repeat what you said.
Supervisor Fewer, anyone want to talk about item number 39?
Yes, I do. Thank you, President Bree. The reason that I'm urging the resolution today is because it is time sensitive. The City and County of San Francisco is undergoing negotiations right now as we speak, and I'm happy to speak on this item if allowed. I have some remarks prepared. May I do that, President Bree?
Yes.
Yes, colleagues, this is item 39, colleagues. Colleagues, I ask for your support on this resolution today, urging the Arbitration Board to incorporate one of the city's proposals into the Memorandum of Understanding between the City and County of San Francisco and the San Francisco Police Officers Association, which is now in arbitration. Thank you to my colleagues, Supervisor Malia Cohen, Norman Yee, and Hillary Ronan for their co-sponsorship on this resolution. I understand that the Arbitration Board may come to a decision in the next day or two, which is why this is coming to a vote today on the without reference to committee calendar. I want to be clear. This is an urging resolution, not a binding one. And I wouldn't ask the board to support something that our own Human Resources Department isn't putting forward themselves. This resolution is supporting the hard work that we asked them to do. I also want to be clear that it is not motivated by an anti-law enforcement sentiment. My husband is a 35-year veteran of the police department. My husband is a 5-time recipient, Medal of Valor. He has risked his life many, many times on the job. And 2 of my brother-in-laws are still active police officers. I know intimately that policing is hard work. I want them to have a good contract too. I know how important a good contract is to the police officers and their families. This resolution is about ensuring the implementation of police reforms that this city unequivocally supports, and this very board unanimously supported. The allegations that this is anti-labor is just ridiculous. I have not heard concerns about this from anyone in the labor community outside of the POA. In fact, today we heard public testimony in favor of this resolution from the San Francisco Labor Council. This resolution expressing support for city proposal number 22 is not anti-labor. It is pro-police reform. And again, it's expressing support for the city proposal put forth by our own Department of Human Resources. This resolution expresses support for city proposal number 22. Specifically, this proposal includes language that suggested changes involving any of the 272 recommendations from the 2016 Department of Justice report shall be noticed to the San Francisco Police Officers Association, and the association shall have 14 calendar days to respond rather than the 30-day period for changes to other general orders. In addition, if no agreement is reached, this proposal would waive fact-finding and impasse procedures. Today's resolution is expressing support for this city's proposal and ask the arbitration board to incorporate to the extent possible, and I want to repeat that. This resolution is expressing support for this city proposal and ask the arbitration board to incorporate to the extent possible city proposal number 22 into the new MOU between the city and the San Francisco Police Officers Association. Colleagues, if we can't get behind this proposal to support efforts by the city to remove obstacles to true implementation of the Department of Justice police reforms, these are proposals that our own Human Resources Department has brought forward. We may never make the changes necessary for the kind of police department that our city needs and deserves. I ask humbly for your support.
Thank you, Supervisor Fewer. Supervisor Ronan.
Colleagues, I'm also speaking in favor of this resolution and asking for a vote today on the resolution. The Department of Justice came in and gave the city 272 recommendations about how our force is failing to provide the type of security for our residents with all the protections at the same time. This is very serious, 272 recommendations. And what we have seen in several instances, specifically on one of the most important policies, our use of force policy, is that the POA has used the collective bargaining process to stop the implementation of those reforms. These are reforms, by the way, that our own police chief wants to implement because he believes that this is right for his department and this is right for the safety not only of all of our community members, but for his own police force. Now, our Department of Human Resources, listening to feedback from us, has put forward this proposal to bargain around, and I think it's absolutely appropriate for this body to weigh in and give our opinion about whether or not it's the right policy moving forward. And this is not theoretical. I am as pro-labor as they come. I have been an employment lawyer. I've been a member of union. I've been a shop steward. This is not about being pro or anti-labor. This is about the topic of the day in this country: police reform and violence perpetrated oftentimes by officers against community of color. It's not just happening in Ferguson, it's happening right here in San Francisco. So much so that we called in the Department of Justice to review our department and to make recommendations about how we can have 21st century policing in San Francisco. And, it is entirely, all we are asking for with this resolution is that bargaining does not happen behind closed doors that impacts the safety of residents in our neighborhoods, which is completely reasonable. We are saying yes over working conditions that are valid working conditions that the police officer should meet and confer, but that there should not be closed door sessions where the public doesn't get a chance to weigh in over policies affecting our entire department and themselves. This is completely reasonable, and I would ask my colleagues to please vote on this measure today so we can get timely feedback not only to our Department of Human Resources, but to our police chief and the arbitrator. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Safai.
I think there's a lot of valid points made here today. I think that this is a worthy conversation. I don't think that we're going to come to a unanimous agreement today. I'd like to make a motion to send this to committee. I think that
you don't need to make a motion to send to committee. You could just send it to committee, and that ends debate. And the motion takes. The request takes.
I'd like to send it to committee.
Okay, so this item will go to committee. Madam Clerk, let's go to item number 42.
What the hell are people talking about?
Item 42 is a resolution to declare support for California State Senate Bill 1024, SB 1024, the Animal Welfare and Violence Prevention Act of 2018, authored by Senator Scott Wilk, mandating defendants convicted of specified animal cruelty offenses to undergo mental health evaluation, humane education courses, and if deemed necessary by the mental health professional, to undergo mandatory counseling.
Supervisor Tang.
Thank you. Today I'm just going to ask to continue this item for a week, given that I believe there will be some amendments made to the legislation at the state level addressing some concerns from the ACLU. So just wanted to make that motion.
Okay, Supervisor Tang has made a motion to continue this item 1 week to the meeting of May 8th, 2018, seconded by Supervisor Cohen. Supervisor Cohen.
Yeah, thank you. I'm glad that the sponsor of the legislation, Supervisor Tang, is sending it back to committee, because this legislation, continuing it. I'm still reeling off of the mistake that was made in item 39, but. So I'd like to request that we honor this commitment to send to continue for a week, because I'm concerned about the broad language in Senate Bill 1024. I don't know if any of you had a chance to read it, but particularly the ability to terminate probation for people who are unable to attend the mandated mental health programs is concerning. I also feel that this legislation contradicts file 180132 that President Breed and myself's ordinance amending the administrative code to abolish the court-ordered penalties for misdemeanor and felony offenses, as well as the fines and fees associated with probation costs and restitution, booking, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so Senate Bill 1024 would add excessive fees, which includes a $2,000 fine. Mandatory fines and fees will add up and keep many citizens in the cycle of debt. So the reason why I'm just highlighting this for everyone is that the ACLU sent an opposition letter to Senator Wilk raising these concerns, and also raising concerns about equal protection and due process. So I am grateful that we are now going to continue it. We have an opportunity to chew on it a little bit more. I've connected with Senator Wilk's office and learned that the amendments that were made to this bill in last week's Senate Public Safety Committee, the updates are not yet in print. So I'd like to take time to consider the new language, and thank you, which is the reasons why I'm supporting this 1 week continuance.
Colleagues, it was moved to continue the meeting of May 8th, 2018, and seconded. Can we take that without objection? Without objection, this item will be continued to the meeting of May 8th, 2018. Madam Clerk, please read the in memoriams.
Today's meeting will be adjourned in memory of the following beloved individuals on behalf of Supervisor Peskin, for the late Mr. Jerry Leonard Barr, and on behalf of Supervisor Ronan, for the late Mr. Brian Quinn.
Okay, colleagues, this brings us to the end of our agenda. Madam Clerk, is there any further business before us today?
That concludes our business for today.
Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.